Avengers Age of Ultron. I feel like I'd put this on par with the first Avengers. I mean, neither one of the movies are perfect.
Right. And
it's kind of like, I feel like they each excel where the other one doesn't. Like, the first Avengers, I do not like the opening. The whole, it's really dark. It feels very CW-ish. It felt like a TV show.
Yeah.
It didn't feel big.
I think you were upset because you feel like they robbed from Batman with the darkness.
Yeah, that's definitely it. All right. Welcome to Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian.
What up, man?
What's up, bro?
Coming to a final end, man. The summer is gone.
It is, dude.
The summer is gone.
But there was one last day to remind us how fucking hot it could get, and that was yesterday.
Yes,
so.
it was. Even though it rained.
Yes.
It was like, the rain was coming down 110 degrees.
It definitely was, dude. Well, end of the summer does kind of mean, I guess, end of the summer blockbusters for the year, right? I mean, Deadpool, Wolverine, still kicking ass. Now, we ain't ring into that in the news in a little bit, but notice the wide shot, Adrian, looks a little empty, right?
Yeah.
So we got Deadpool, Wolverine there.
Yeah.
Now, last week I unveiled the Funko Pop Yourselves, right?
Okay.
Where we created ourselves, or a little mini version of us. Now, I don't know if I told you this, but each pop came with, or I ordered a Wolverine suit and Deadpool suit. So I kind of wanted to put you on the spot and see if how in tune we are. Okay. So Deadpool, Wolverine, they're quite a dynamic duo, right? We saw, I would say, you and me, we're a dynamic duo here on Only Comics, right?
Sure.
So if we had to be Deadpool, Wolverine, which one of us do you think is more Wolverine? Which one of us is more Deadpool?
I would say I'm more Deadpoolish.
Really?
And you're more Wolverine-like.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show you what I predicted, and maybe we're not as in tune. So I put the Deadpool suit on me, okay? All right.
You're definitely not Deadpool.
Okay. And then I got the Wolverine suit on you, okay?
Wow,
so, all right. Now, what makes you say that?
I don't know. It just came to me. But it kind of makes sense, though. I am shorter than you.
Yeah, okay.
The Deadpool is taller, so that kind of makes sense.
Got it.
Except, I don't know. I think I'm maybe funnier than you.
Okay, maybe.
Which is kind of why I was thinking about the Deadpool thing.
Well, it's a different kind of funny. I feel like
there's that.
You're funny in the Logan way. Like, a lot of things, that we discuss here bother you, Director does something stupid, you're like, yo, fuck that guy,
Right.
And
I can roll with that.
Okay, so I'm changing your stance here a little bit.
All right, yep.
All right. Yep. So, and I thought, Deadpool, he leans into a little bit of silliness, some tomfoolery.
Okay.
Which I'm more willing to go into the tomfoolery at times.
There is that.
So will you guys let us know if you had to pick, if we were doing our own version of Deadpool Wolverine the movie, I mean, that'd be something to see.
That would be something. Right.
Would you put me in the red suit, Adrian in the yellow? What would you do? So anyways, well, so all that just to say, here's our little mini pops. All right. Speaking of Marvel,
dude, did you invest in the company and you're promoting? What's going on? It's like, what's going to come up next?
I think they should send me an Only Comics hat for the pop. Like, they should do something. I'm doing all this free promo. I probably sold them, another 100,000 pop yourselves over the past week.
Possible.
And what did we get? Nothing.
Hi.
I see you have a coffee cup there, Adrian.
Yep, no branding on it. Had to get it myself.
Had to get it yourself. Unbelievable.
A year and 3 months, whatever later, still get my own coffee.
Nothing. You know what? It's all right. They all try to jump on the bandwagon when it's too late, and we'll be like, you know what? We don't drink coffee anymore. We drink water. Anyways, something that was around a lot longer than a year is Marvel. Marvel celebrated their 85th birthday, I guess, this past week. I forget exactly what day it was, but in that they released a nice little compilation. We watched it right before we hopped on here. I thought it was a nice little video, a little homage to Stan Lee, Kirby, Ditko, all those early creators. Dude, it's crazy when you think back at, just Stan Lee alone, how much influence he had on this industry,
right? And
how many characters that he created just by himself,
right?
Yes, he had some help, but you look at a lot of the, the Spider-Man, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, all created by Stan Lee,
right?
Amazing. I like this little this video. It showed some of the early stuff, showed some comic stuff, and it really, we talk about this a lot here. yes, we critique MCU movies and whatever, but as a whole, it's amazing to have this cinematic universe, right? And we kind of got to see a lot of the highlights in that video, and then some new footage. So what'd you think of the new footage? We saw Thunderbolts.
Yep.
We saw Ironheart kind of swoop through. Yep. We saw a glimpse of Daredevil from Born Again. And then we saw Agatha, you know, that's coming out pretty soon. And then it ended with my man Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk. What you think about that shot?
I like the shot. I definitely like it better than the Ruffalo Hulk. Because I think with the Ruffalo Hulk, they try to go like cosmetically correct, and Ruffalo's face is fatter, right? So it's more rounded. But with the Harrison Ford look, you know, he's thinner anyway.
Yes.
So it just looked more precise.
Okay.
I would go with that.
Yeah.
So short answer is I liked it.
Yeah. No, I did too. I do think it I think one of the biggest differences between Hulk on screen and Hulk in the comics is in the comics, you pointed this out before, Bruce Banner doesn't look like Hulk.
Right.
At all.
At all.
And then they do incorporate that a little bit in the movie, because that is if I do like the Red Hulk, I do like how, you know, big he looks bigger than Hulk, you know, which I think he is in the comics, but I think Red Hulk might be a little bigger.
I think he's a little bigger and bitter. He's that too.
He's definitely more bitter.
He's bigger, and he has the extra power of the heat thing going on. So
what's that? The heat?
He can actually generate massive amounts of heat.
Okay.
Hence the red stuff.
Gotcha. I will say you do see some of Harrison Ford's likeness in the face, which I get. I mean, maybe it's because of Harrison Ford's look in general. It's not a bad thing, because he kind of has a similar shaped head as if, you know, the Hulk. Maybe he was just born to play the Hulk. Who knows?
Well, also they want to, you know, carve that Hulk as the Harrison Ford
Correct.
Hulk, as opposed to the Ruffalo Hulk.
Right.
You can't have Harrison Ford get mixed up with Mark Ruffalo, you know, so.
Absolutely. We also see a short little clip of the Thunderbolts. They're in an elevator together. Bucky's got the long hair back like he did back in Winter Soldier. Kind of cool look. Dude, I'm kind of looking forward to this, man. A little tease that we've seen in the synopsis so far is that for some reason all these Thunderbolts are sent to kind of kill each other. They figure it out, and now they're kind of like this Suicide Squad-esque team.
Right.
The good thing, the difference about this and the Suicide Squad is most of these characters their stories have already been built on screen, so we're familiar with them. So it's not like they're just throwing a bunch of random characters at us. These are, I mean, you got Black Widow's sister, Yelena. You got Ghost from the original, from the first Ant-Man. You got Taskmaster. You got the Red Guardian, who's, you know, he's fun. And then you got Bucky, you know. Right. And I'm probably missing a few, but nice group of characters that we've kind of lived with in other projects and kind of thrown them together. So I'm kind of looking forward to this, too.
So we're not going to have a Clark Kent Krypton blowing up moment, or or Bruce Wayne getting killed in the alley moment.
No.
So we don't have to revisit all these histories, because they've already introduced them to us over time. Got it.
And then Daredevil Born Again. I got some more news about one of the Daredevil stars a little bit later, but that's a show that I'm also really looking forward to. Right. They have kind of confirmed that the tone is going to be, not kind of, I mean, they said they did some shit in this show that they're surprised even made the cutting room floor because of how violent. And so it's going to match the tone of the past Daredevil, you know, series on Netflix, but just with a bigger budget. So I mean, it sounds great on paper. Yeah. And, you know, if it does, hopefully, looks like they're going to adapt that Devil's Reign story where Kingpin becomes mayor of New York, which is a really cool comic story. So everything they're doing there, I'm looking forward to, man. So congrats to Marvel on the 85 years. You know, we know about anniversaries here. We're over a year, you know, so not the same, but close.
Not the same.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
But I'm with it, dude. I'm here for Thunderbolts, Daredevil, Ironheart. I mean, I like the character in Black Panther 2. Probably one of the actually ups of that movie. Right. So, I mean, it's a little interesting to have the Ironheart character within there's no Tony Stark, because there's a bigger connection between the two in the comics. But all in all, I think they're kind of course corrected, and we should be in store for some, you know, pretty good movies and shows over the next year. And then we got Fantastic Four next year as well. So
right. I mean, like three things out of that video. One, I hope they don't over technology Ironheart, because even Iron Man, it got to the point where, I mean, so many things were flipping around. That whole Transformer-esque thing.
The nanites were too much.
Right. So I just hope that they don't put so much tech in it, so much flash in it, that it takes away from. I hope they don't try to substitute the the integrity of the movie, the good story for the tech. You know, that's number one. Number two is Stan Lee always looked old, I guess. I mean, his hair changed color, but dude, back in the 60s, he looked just the way he did, you know, right before he died.
Correct.
And number three, that Marvel 85 logo, so much better than DC's remake.
Dude, they didn't even have to announce that they made a new logo. Right? They put a whole video out and showed footage of a bunch of new projects versus like, hey, you want to look at this little logo I made, you know? Hey, what are you going to do? It's not a competition, though. Or maybe it is. But, yeah, Stan Lee, that's why, you know, I was shocked when he passed. I'm like, dude, I thought he was just going to live forever because he did look that way as long as I could remember.
Right. What is it? What's the guy that never ages? Ant-Man.
Oh,
Paul.
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
So Paul Rudd is immortally young, and Stan Lee was immortally old.
Right.
Until he wasn't immortal anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of DC, Adrian, there's some Joker 2 news out there. Yeah, right? So this movie comes out soon, I guess.
The news sucks, but whatever. At least they're in it, right?
Yeah. So Deadpool Wolverine, we talked about this like a week ago, or I think it was 2 weeks now. It passed the original Joker at the box office, right? It's now the #1 grossing R-rated movie in history.
Wow.
Now, the first Joker grossed over $1 billion. You know, it did very well. And this was 2019, opened up to like $93.5 million in North America alone. And there's some early I'm always like impressed or shocked at how they can track the ticket sales before they happen. Like the tickets are not on sale yet, but they have early projections for what this movie is going to do. And it says that it's currently eyeing around 120, 150 at the domestic box office in the debut weekend, which is, I mean, really big for any movie. Now, the article I read really enjoyed pointing this out, the fact that even though that's amazing, it's still well behind Deadpool Wolverine, which debuted at, you know, $211 million last month. But that being said, dude, I mean, as much as I'm not crazy excited about seeing this movie, I probably still will check it out because I saw the first one. The fact that a rated R movie based off of Joker is going to open at, you know, 120, 150 million, that's impressive, dude.
Right.
It's big numbers.
Yeah. I mean, it continues to drive the message home, at least in my mind, about how dark people are because they want to see weirdness, dude.
Right.
And Joker is weird.
Oh, yeah.
I still predict. Now, I have not seen the first one.
Yep.
I probably won't see the second one, so we're not going to do a deep dive on Joker 2. But I predict now, and I'll round it up by saying I am not a what's her face, Harley Quinn, who's going to play
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. I don't listen to her music. I know who.
No,
she
you're not
is.
jamming out on the way here.
No, apparently not. I don't listen to her music, but I know who she is because she's kind of, you know, out there.
Right.
But I predict. And I've seen her like even in commercials, right? The Italian movie or whatever.
Oh yeah, the Gucci film.
Yeah, the Gucci film. I predict that she's gonna eclipse Joaquin Phoenix in this movie. I'm amazed at how dynamic she is, even though I don't, you know, subscribe to her.
Yep.
But the fact that she just keeps showing up and just she snatches my attention even in commercials.
Yeah.
So I predict that she's gonna outshine Joaquin Phoenix in Joker.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy prediction. She is. I saw her in A Star Is Born. She did really well in that. You know, someone was like, "Oh, well, she just played a singer in that." Yeah, dude, but acting,
it's different.
It's different. So, like, you ever see those football commercials? Like now, this football season, Patrick Mahomes is probably one of the worst actors I've ever seen in my life. Right. He's on those commercials. Like, dude, can you just shut up? Can we get a voiceover for him or something? It's horrible.
He's like Schwarzenegger back in the the Conan days. Actually, before that, the Hercules days. Hercules in New York.
Yep.
Yeah, he's in those days.
You might as well have a shirt that says "Hi, I'm acting." Like it's just that. Like, it's just goofy. It's bad.
You know what? That's an excellent idea. You're probably going to see that, and they're not going to give you credit for it.
No, of course not. Of course not.
You know, what is it? My idea isn't a good idea until it's your idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see Mahomes showing up with "I'm acting" or something like that.
It's like half the shit we say on here, dude. I mean, they just pick it up, no credit. But
there you go.
But yeah, I mean, they're like, I literally cringe when he's talking those commercials. But so let's not act like anyone can just act, and all he's playing is himself. So let's not go. Oh, she just played herself, dude. She did a great job. She has an amazing voice. I agree. I'm not her music. I'm not jamming out to Born This Way on my way in here. Right. It's not my thing. But I can recognize someone who has a really good voice, whether I like that genre of music or not. But so yeah, I don't think that's crazy. I think she's a phenomenal, and it's not a knock on Joaquin Phoenix. People, how could you say, dude, Joaquin Phoenix is Joaquin Phoenix, right? But Lady Gaga is an amazing actress,
right? It's like the dude last week we were talking, well, the week before, whenever you were talking about it, this guy was like, "Oh, Marvel is destroying the movie industry or whatever." I mean, he was great at whatever he did. Well, he wasn't great, but he was good at whatever he did, right? And the MCU is a completely different thing.
Correct.
Same thing with Lady Gaga. I give him credit. Again, you're not knocking Joaquin, but Lady Gaga is her own thing.
Right. Yeah. So no, I don't think that's a crazy prediction. I do think, and I guess the more I see of this movie, the less it feels like a flat-out musical, because that's kind of what got said in the beginning, which really turned me off to it. So I'm sure there's going to be a couple musical scenes, but hopefully it's not a musical the entire time, because I think it would take away. But my biggest issue with the Joker movie is just I don't want to see movies with characters without their main character. Like, stop making Batman stuff without Batman.
Right.
They did this video game. I know you're not a big gamer, but I really like the Batman games, the Arkham series.
Right.
Great. They did 3 of them or 4 of them, then they stopped, and they tried to do the same thing they do in movies and shows. They made Batman games without Batman. There's a game called Gotham Knights where you play as Red Hood, you play as Nightwing, you play as Robin, you play as Batgirl. You know who you don't fucking play as in the game, Adrian? Batman. Batman dies in the beginning. It's in Gotham. The game looks cool. The gameplay feels fun. But after a while, I'm using, I'm playing as Nightwing to fight these guys. I'm like, this would be so much better if I was Batman. Right. No one reads Batman comics and goes, you know what? I want to be Robin. I don't know. Right. If you're out there, let me know. But when you want to be Batman, dude.
Exactly.
There's that. There's the Justice League or Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. That's another game. Takes place in the same Arkham universe. Right. And guess who's not in the game?
Wow.
Batman. Well, Batman's in it. He's on the other side. You got to go kill him. Oh. You'd rather play as Harley Quinn than Batman? Come on.
Nah, that's not gonna happen.
It's kind of the same thing with the movies. Like, that was the Joker movie. They're in Gotham. Their Gotham City looks pretty cool. It is dark. It is depressing. It feels a lot like, you ever seen Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro?
Yes.
It's literally the same story as that. So people go, what's your issue with Joker? Dude, just watch Taxi Driver. It's the same movie, except it's not forced into Gotham.
Right.
There is Thomas Wayne is in the movie, and then there's this weird connection with Joker. It's just, it feels almost Madam Web-ish. Right. As they dance around Batman Bruce Wayne to show us this Joker who's like damn near in his 50s. So when Bruce Wayne's like a 9-year-old kid in this movie. So what happens in this universe? Batman, Bruce Wayne becomes Batman and Joker's in the convalescent home. Right. Like, he's already 45 years old. So it's like watching the Spider-Man-less Spider-Man movies. Why? Just put a stop to it, dude. Anyways, moving on. Deadpool and Wolverine, we were talking about them earlier. Deadpool and Wolverine hit a milestone at the domestic box office. So I guess there was 15 other films to do this in history. Or it's this, Deadpool Wolverine is the 16th film to gross over $600 million at the U.S. box office. So, yes, it's over $1 billion worldwide. And a lot of times movies do okay here, they do really well overseas, so the numbers look inflated. But the fact that this movie it's right at $600 million right now at the box office. The other
domestic.
Domestic, yes, at the domestic box office. The other MCU movies that have also obtained this feat, the first Avengers, $623 million domestically. Infinity War, $678. Black Panther, $700. No Way Home, $814, and then Endgame, the biggest MCU movie of all time, $858 million domestically. So This movie's I think 6 weeks, 7 weeks out right now. I could see this thing moving up. I think it moves past the first Avengers, Infinity War, maybe finishes up there somewhere between Black Panther and No Way Home. I mean, impressive numbers, dude, for a rated R movie. And someone online said this. So I kind of want to hear your take on this. They kind of marginalized the success of Deadpool Wolverine. They said that the only reason it did so well is because the past movies have sucked. And I'm like, I think that that's actually more of an accomplishment, because if every movie is like a billion, it's easier to hit $1 billion, right?
Sure.
Madam Web, I think it did $452 at the box office, right? So, and that was the last MCU release. So do you think this is more impressive or less impressive because of where the MCU movies have been?
I think it's more impressive. But I mean, you're always going to have those critics.
Sure.
You know, the MCU is destroying film. I mean, they you know, they paint with these broad, you know, strokes. You know, because their own, you know, their butt hurt at some point in their childhood, and you know, they want to, you know, overlay the entire universe.
Just get Desitin if you're that butt
exactly.
hurt, right?
It's like it's just weird, dude. I think one thing has absolutely nothing to do with the other one. The other thing is that when you make a statement like that, you're marginalizing the opinions, the perspectives, the joy, the happiness, the whatever of other people. I think people recognize shit.
Yeah.
And they recognize good stuff too.
Right.
So the other movies were shit.
Yep.
And this movie is a good movie. So to say that, you know, it's only successful because the other movies were bad, I think you're marginalizing people's perspective.
Right. And if you really think about the kind of the path there, the Marvels wasn't as bad as the box office numbers. So what I mean by that, there were movies prior to that that did better that were worse movies.
Right.
You had Thor: Love and Thunder actually did a lot better than the Marvels at the box office. But if I'm ranking it to, the Marvels is way better than Thor: Love and Thunder. I can't even say the name. My mind doesn't even want me to say the name of that movie. Exactly. So Thor: Love and Thunder. And then you had the Madam Webs of the world and shit like that. So if anything, I think the Marvels suffered because of bad movies like Ant-Man Quantumanium, Thor: Love and Thunder. It suffered because of those movies. So people were kind of checked out like, dude, the Marvels ain't going to be good. Those last ones weren't good. But the 6 of us that went to see it were like, dude, it actually wasn't that bad. Right. You know? So I think this is more impressive that it's doing this well after all of those, duds, I guess, if you will. So the movie we're going to talk about later, Avengers: Age of Ultron, this is an interesting one where from an overall worldwide box office, it's still above Deadpool Wolverine, but domestically, Deadpool Wolverine is about $150 million above this one. That movie is number 27 all-time domestically with a gross of $459 million. So this is one of those movies where it did more overseas. Right. Now, the movie, although Sokovia is a made-up place, but it takes place overseas. It's kind of a bigger, feels more of like a global event. Maybe that helped some of it. Who knows? But it's interesting to see that, it's not always, they don't always do as well here as they do overseas and vice versa. Daredevil Born Again star, our boy Vinny D plays the Kingpin. Right. It's probably one of the, there's a lot I'm excited for in that series, but the fact that he's back as Kingpin, I'm really excited for that. Right. He's one, dude, and we talk a lot about, roles being retired and reprised and whatnot. He's one that I think we could say he's that iconic Kingpin on screen. There's been a couple others, right? But, when you think of Kingpin, is there any other version you think of on screen?
No. Well, I can think of a couple of them. But, I definitely agree that he's the more iconic of the ones that have portrayed it. And the fact that they're moving him around gives you an opportunity to get even more comfortable with him as, that character.
Dude, he just has this he's menacing on screen. Right. And a lot of it's the acting, it's shot well, the whole deal, but they've done a great job in presenting his threat on screen.
It's like if you put a mask on him, you would still see him acting, Kingpin through that mask. And that's what I mean by when you have like a Robert Downey Jr., whoever plays Doom has to be able to portray Doom through the mask, right? Not just it's weird for me, but Vincent D definitely is one of those people that has that on-screen presence.
Now, so far, I think he's only at the one character limit, right? Now, he did play in Men in Black, but that you're probably not going to count that. He was a villain in Men in Black years ago. Was that really a comic character?
Is Men in Black Marvel? Not that it matters, but
I don't think
is it even a comic book?
It is a comic book,
okay.
I don't think it's Marvel, though. I could be wrong. So I guess since we don't know, we're not going to count that one. But he says that his dream DC role in a recent interview is to play Swamp Thing. Do you think Vinny D could pull off Swamp Thing?
He has the mask.
Yep.
He has the, like I just said, he can, even if he had on a mask, he could, portray, that character through that. So, yeah, I think he could.
I think he could too, dude. And this wouldn't, I mean, Swamp Thing I don't think would be a mask per se. It would definitely be cosmetic effects, to where a lot of his face would be covered, maybe some CGI too. Dude, I didn't know that. When I was a kid, I loved the Swamp Thing show. Did you ever see that show?
I never saw the show, but I did see the movie with Adrian Barbeau.
Okay.
So that was that movie was iconic. I mean, imagine back then, like in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
That show coming out. So yeah, that's the one. That's the only one I've seen. I never even knew there was a show.
Okay, so you saw? Is this the one from '82?
Yeah.
Got it. I've never seen this. But there's a show that I want to say it was. I mean, I saw it in early '90s. I don't know when it was actually created, but I always thought it was cool. I love the character.
Right.
I didn't know it was a comic book though at the time. Did you?
I did. I just saw. Well, what I didn't see was because we used to go to the drive-in all the time and watch these Chinese movies. Dudes jumping across rivers and running through tree limbs and dodging raindrops and stuff.
Yep.
So when the Swamp Thing came around, it was different than that. Because remember, when I grew up, I mean, we had 3 channels.
Right.
And you didn't get to watch TV most of the time because at some point you were the antenna. So
go change the channel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, literally, you had to stand there and hold the antenna so that you can get reception.
Oh, yeah.
So therefore, you didn't see the TV.
Gotcha.
Unless there was a mirror across the room or something.
Right.
But yeah, no, we had 3 channels, so we weren't exposed to much. So drive-ins was our thing. Pack up the car and Chinese, running across leaves.
Yeah.
So when Swamp Thing came out, it was like, oh wow, this is great, right?
Yeah.
And then now you look back on it, it's like, it's nostalgic.
Right. Yeah, I'm not going to go watch. We're not doing a deep dive on Swamp Thing 82. I can promise you that. But yeah, I always liked the character. They did, I want to say there was a recent show or movie or something. I don't remember exactly when it was, but they tried a revival. And it is a DC comic, so
okay.
But yeah, I wouldn't be upset with seeing some Swamp Thing. There was a Swamp Thing TV series in 2019. Must have not did well. I mean, hey, if any of y'all watched it, let us know. Now he does make an appearance in the Arrowverse crossover, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Okay.
Are you a fan of the Arrowverse?
I watched it because because I was a big fan of Smallville.
Okay.
And then Smallville started crossing over into kind of the Arrowverse. So I was watching like Smallville, the Flash, and then the Arrow, Arrow.
Yeah.
Kind of like all at the same time. They kind of intermingle.
Okay.
But then once Supergirl came online, I kind of like started dropping off because it was just, they would just like roll. It just got long.
So actually, this ain't We Respond, but Rider Fan 04, he asked, and I've not seen any of the Arrowverse. Something about the CW shows and just like, dude, I'm trying to see big shit. Maybe that's, maybe it's too showy for me. But I never got into it. I was intrigued by the whole Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline because they tied in a lot of other, it was like a multiverse on the small screen before it hit, the big screen, as they say.
Right.
See that, dude? It's like we're professional. Like, we take over any show right now. It'd be on Jimmy Kimmel if you don't watch yourselves. Anyways, but so Rider Fan asked
we'd be
us.
Funnier.
Yeah, obviously. Rider Fan asked, "Hey, Mike and Adrian, what's your guys' honest opinion about the Arrowverse?" He says, "Do you think they would have done a better job respecting the material if they were on a different network, like Netflix Prime?" So I guess you're on CW, you can't go full adult like in the comics.
Right.
Do you think that hurt the Arrowverse at all?
I think the Arrowverse early on was good for what it was.
Yeah.
Like I said, it captured my attention. I watched it for a few years. But then just started to trail off.
Yeah.
But I do think that, so by that time we started seeing more aggressive comic book movies on big screen. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so we got this over here. So what's Arrowverse doing over here? Why are you still in Disneyland when you should be in the grown-up park?
Right.
So I think it kind of toward the end it was painful to watch because you expected more and you wasn't getting it. Yeah. So like the Arrow should be like Daredevil,
right?
You know, that kind of thing, and it just wasn't.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, Rider fan.
Actually, all the CW shows were they were safe.
Yeah.
You know, Smallville, Arrow, The Flash, they were all safe. Right. Supergirl, they're all safe.
Very family friendly.
Exactly. I mean, these are beasts. You know, especially the ones without the power is the most aggressive. Batman.
Correct.
You know, things like that.
You got to do something to compensate for the fact that you can't fly, you can't shoot lasers, you can't heal. Like, you just better be ready to whip someone's ass, the point where they can't move.
All right, and invest in perks.
Exactly.
Because there is pain.
Right, right. Yeah, it's almost like you know, and I kind of, without seeing it, it's hard for me to comment, but with what you're saying, it almost felt like if they were to take these shows and put them on Max, like Titans, for example.
Right.
Like, dude, the tone of that show, I mean, Titans isn't perfect. It's I really enjoyed the show.
Sure.
I'm still haven't seen the last season because I was pissed off when they canceled the show. But I'd love to see more comic book stories get that treatment.
Right.
It was adult. And speaking about perks, remember, you know, Hawk, I mean, like, dude, of course you're going to feel a little banged up after fighting, you know, criminals in the alley, getting your ass whipped, you know, getting jumped and coming out of it. Like, I really like the perspective they had on comic characters in that show.
Right. Because they made it relatable. You know, if you get in a fight, there is going to be some stitches.
Correct.
You are going to need some drugs, especially if your idea is to let me just recover long enough to become conscious again, so I can go out and do the same shit today that Daredevil. I just did last night.
Yep.
I mean, you need something to kind of move you along.
You saying that just brings me back to the first season of Daredevil, which is perfect. It's one of the best, you know, comic seasons ever, in my opinion.
Right.
But it shows that, like, he's banged up, but he wants to get back out there.
Right.
And, like, that was him trying to heal up enough just to get back out there for a little bit, to come back in to be all fucked up again.
Yep.
Speaking of grounded, the Batman, we heard some news recently about filming starting next year on the Batman. The Penguin show is dropping in September. So actually, I think it's the 9th, dude. We're already in September. Today's the 2nd. Right. Happy Labor Day, everyone. You know, whatever that means.
Happy Labor Day. It means pool closing and wrapping up the yard. That's what that means.
Yep. And you can't wear white after Labor Day, apparently.
Just whatever other nonsense we got going on.
Right. So anyways, something that is dropping after Labor Day is the Penguin show. And I think one of the questions a lot of us have is, I don't know if you have this question. I certainly have this question. Will we see Battinson in the Penguin? Will we see the Batman in the Penguin? Should we see the Batman in the Penguin?
I think they should, at the very least, have Battinson like on a rooftop, you know, a silhouette or something, you know, just kind of like
there.
Just kind of there, you know, watching, monitoring, something to that effect. He doesn't have to have an engagement, and we definitely don't want to see a Penguin Bruce Wayne interaction where they meet in a restaurant or you see him in the background.
Yeah.
No, we need to see Batman.
Right.
Some semblance of Batman in the Penguin.
Got it. Yeah. Would you agree that he shouldn't be the focus, though? He should just kind of like what you're saying. He should just kind of be there, but the show should be about Penguin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unlike Echo, where, you know, the show was supposed to be about Echo and not, you know, the Kingpin, but it was a Kingpin show with Echo in it.
Correct. You should have just made a Kingpin show, and we all would have been okay with it and had Echo be a part of that and have her get her shine. We probably would have liked Echo even more.
Right.
But what do we know? We're just a couple fans, you know? We're only fans.
Only fans. Or not.
Well, no, we're just fans. So they asked Matt Reeves, because there was a rumor, I think probably about a month ago, that said he would be in the show. They asked him about it, and Matt Reeves turned into a fucking ballroom dancer. Or he danced around this question, bro, like Lady Gaga at the VMAs. He says, I don't feel like it's missing something fundamental. Okay. I feel like it's an extension of what is fundamentally there. We know this as the world of Batman. You're going down a different alley. So the specter of Batman is there. The specter of Riddler is there. The specter of everything that happens in the last movie is there. It informs it, and it's exactly where we begin. I don't know what the fuck he just said, but it kind of sounds like he's not going to be there. Maybe we don't even see actually Battinson, but the presence of Batman. Like they're going to talk about Batman. Maybe we see him in the shadows. And then there was a showrunner, Lauren LaFranc, says that Matt's films are through the lens of the Batman. So you're high up, looking down on the city. The show, it's a different perspective. With Oz, you're in the city streets, you're in the grit, you're in the muck of the grime. He's looking up, wanting to claw his way to the top. So it's going to be a different perspective on Gotham. So all this just causes more confusion. Now, I hope this. I would hope that if he's not in it, you would just say he's not in it.
Right.
Because this sounds like he's in there somewhere.
It sounds like bullshit to me. Because there was a Spectre of Spider-Man in Morbius. There was a Spectre of Spider-Man in Madam Web.
Spectre or like a little speckle?
It's like Venom. I mean, we all know that these characters are offsprings of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The Penguin is an offspring of Batman. So yeah, there's a Spectre because we know, but is he going to be in it or not?
Correct.
Stop dancing around the question.
Yeah, I would hope that. Again, if you're going to dance around it, that means he's in there. Because I think the fact that you're not just saying no means you're kind of saying yes, but you don't want to come out and say it. I would hate for him to dance around it and then him not show up. And think it would feel like a letdown.
Well, they don't want to say no, and then he doesn't show up because they want to have people watch the show. Oh, maybe he'll be in it. Well, I'll watch, and then you get disappointed. And it's okay if you get disappointed.
Right.
Who are you? You just paying us the money that we, need to run this thing.
Exactly.
So it's like Hollywood's teaching them just to straight up lie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's her face wasn't going to be in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh yeah, Laura.
Until she was.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
Exactly. So, anyways, I do know this. The Penguin drops September 9th, and it's an 8-episode miniseries, and each episode is right around an hour long, so decent amount of content. So we will have some DC stuff to hold us over until whenever they decide to do anything after this. So there's that. So that is our last piece of news. We like to wrap up comic news and rumors with a little thumbs up, thumbs down. So starting from the top, Adrian.
Hold on, before you get into that.
Yeah.
So I just thought I saw something. I don't know what I was watching, but is Catwoman and Gambit a thing in real life on the outside? Because they were doing something like who's your top whatever. They would like pull a card.
Oh, you mean Zoe,
the two actors, Zoe and Chandler or whatever.
Channing Tatum. I think so. I believe so.
That's interesting.
Yeah, a little comic crossover there. Hey, I
was just curious.
Oh,
no relevance to anything.
No, but this is Only Comics, Adrian, where we discuss comics and only comics
and clearly other things.
Clearly. All right, thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Marvel celebrates an 85-year birthday and shows us the first look at Thunderbolts, Daredevil Born Again, Ironheart, Red Hulk. I'm giving this whole thing a thumbs up, dude. Happy birthday, and I'm looking forward to what's to come.
All right, thumbs up.
Joker 2 tracking solid weekend, but still way behind Deadpool Wolverine. Just for the overall comic genre, I'll give this a thumbs up.
Sure.
Deadpool Wolverine hits a milestone at the domestic box office, becomes the 16th movie in history to do over $600 million domestically.
Nice.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Expected, actually.
Absolutely, right? So that's why I'm repping the Deadpool hat today, Daredevil Born Again star Vinny D says his dream DC role is Swamp Thing. I give that a thumbs up, dude. Matter of fact, let my man play him. Do it.
Yep, thumbs up.
Matt Reeves gives us a vague answer about Robert Pattinson showing up in the Penguin series. I give this a thumbs down, dude. I wish you would just say yes or no.
Right. Thumbs down, dude.
Like this is doesn't need to be that much of a surprise. Like it's like you said, it's Batman Penguin. It's not like, hey, is Batman going to show up in the Superman movie? Leave it up for surprise.
Right.
But Batman Penguin, let us know yes or no.
Yep.
But doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So anyways, Adrian, hit or miss cast. This is where I throw out some casting choices from the past. You let me know, in your opinion, if it was a hit or a miss. I always try to have a little loose theme to these, okay? I try to avoid, just giving you the whole cast from one movie. But since we're going to be talking Avengers later, Avengers Age of Ultron, this segment and the next segment have a little Avengers theme to them. So I see you got the cap on today, you know. So hit or miss cast. Number 1, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye / Clint Barton.
The fact that we've only seen him as Hawkeye since the inception of him on the big screen, I would say not necessarily a hit, but more of a hit than a miss. I don't think he's the right person for the Hawkeye.
No.
But
yeah, from, you know,
it works.
If you're looking at Hawkeye from the comics versus what we've seen on screen, do you think that was a hit cast?
No. I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. So are you going with miss?
I'm going to go with a hit.
Okay. All right. 2, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff.
Same thing. She has worn the character well over time, but I don't think that she's the perfect casting for it.
Okay.
But again, a hit only because we've only seen her as Scarlet Witch.
And I'll ask you the same question. Based off of Black Widow you're used to from the comics, do you feel like she nailed that or no?
Nope.
No.
Not at all.
So hit but not comic accurate, I guess is kind of what we're saying on the first 2.
Correct.
All right. Number 3, Michael B. Jordan as Human Torch / Johnny Storm.
Absolutely a miss.
Yeah. I've never seen that movie, and a lot of people have told me not to watch it. So you agree with that?
I agree.
Jessica Alba as Invisible Woman / Sue Storm from the first one.
Miss.
You didn't like that?
No.
Aaron Taylor Johnson as Quicksilver or Pietro from Age of Ultron.
I go with a hit.
Yeah, I like them, dude.
Yeah.
It's I think one of the downfalls of that movie is that they killed him off too soon. But I thought he did great.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. So Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. Now, speaking of Hawkeye's an interesting character because in the comics, dude, he's goofy as fuck.
Right.
I mean, he's got the purple, Robin Hood on crack costume, as I like to call it. With all due respect, respectfully. Can you be on crack respectfully?
Apparently in only comics world.
Yeah, what Earth is this? Earth 214 or something? I don't know. Earth 420. So anyways, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. The Hawkeye character, I cringe when I see him on my comic sheet. Like, the mask is ridiculous, the purple. And I like purple. We got some purple going on behind it. Magneto,
I mean, he's easily a D-level character in the comics. You know?
I do think that with the Hawkeye show, it did make me appreciate Jeremy Renner more. Like we got to see some story from him that actually mattered, as opposed to him just being some dude in the back, of the Avengers. Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. I feel like it depends on who's writing her. Like, and we'll talk about this when we get into the Age of Ultron talk, but I wasn't a fan of how she was using that movie.
Right.
Then you have other movies like, even her own movie. The fact it came out way too late, but I thought she did a good job there. And the whole Infinity War Endgame, I think it wrapped up well. Like, I really like her dynamic with Hawkeye over the whole Hulk, Bruce Banner stuff. I think that was the story that we wanted to see. Everything don't have to be a romance. Like, the fact that they're just, they're friends. Like, I would have loved to see, we have the other romance. Everyone doesn't have to have a girlfriend in Avengers, like, fuck, man, just have some other stories.
Yep.
But, Michael B. Jordan had a little redemption because he went from Johnny Storm to Killmonger.
Right.
Night and day, dude.
Absolutely.
Like, it's crazy. That's why when people get all crazy about these casting choices, it's like, dude, we only talk about past ones because you never know what they're going to do.
Right.
Like Pedro Pascal, right off the bat, I go, he doesn't really look like Reed Richards, but he's an amazing actor.
Right.
Let me just shut up and wait and see what they do.
Sure.
Because we've been surprised. I mean, most of the universe, when Heath Ledger was casted as Joker, dude fell out of their chair. Like, why would you have this guy? He was in Brokeback Mountain. Like, yeah, I know, dude, but he's not going to be that character here.
Right.
Like, he's not going to be a gay cowboy in Batman. Like, everybody relax. Come on.
What's his face went from also Johnny Storm to Captain America.
Exactly.
And now he's the iconic Captain America.
Correct.
Right? I mean, even the president says that the new Captain America isn't Steve Rogers. I mean, come on.
Exactly. So, Yeah, so I mean, I think that's the kind of I say this is an educational show, Adrian, and I'm going to double down on that because hit or miss cast is another lesson for you all. Wait until we see the damn movie before you judge the casting choice. Now we also may talk out of both ends a little bit because there may be a casting choice that I hear and I go, that's stupid. Right. We don't have a lot of rules here on Only Comics.
Speaking of, so I saw some art rendition, right? People up in arms about RDJ playing Doom, having played Iron Man. There was this art rendition where Doom is sitting on this throne and he's holding Iron Man's helmet.
Okay.
So it was actually a pretty cool thing, but it's like actors are actors. That's how they make their money. I mean, that's how they feed themselves,
Correct.
So, what hit or miss is about is, our opinion on an actor portraying a comic book character. That doesn't mean that the actor is bad or that they should have a two character limit in my mind.
Yeah.
But they can move around, and thankfully, Ryan Reynolds went from that shitty Green Lantern to Deadpool.
Yep.
What's his face went from Johnny Storm to Captain America.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And then Michael B. Jordan went from also Human Torch to Killmonger.
Yep.
So they evolve.
Halle Berry went from Storm to Catwoman. Not the same.
Not the same thing. I don't know. Is that like a demotion or like a parallel move or?
That's a downgrade right there, dude. Yeah. Yep. That is a downgrade.
Wow. Wait a minute. Was she Storm first or Catwoman first? I thought she was Catwoman first. Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really a downgrade.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Anyways, well, there you have it. That's hit or miss cast. Let us know where you fall, if you agree or not. One thing I can promise you guys, we're not going to be upset if you disagree with us.
Nope.
We're not going to lose any sleep over it. We may say like you're wrong, or we may say something about you because we're not.
Next week we might say we were wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. Next week I might be like, you like Scarlet? Yeah, she's a hit. She's the greatest thing ever. Maybe by the time we're talking about the movie, you never know what you're going to get here. Dude.
I think the thing about her was that she is, in my mind, Natalia Romanoff is a tall, athletic. She's almost like a Catwoman kind of personality.
Yeah.
But an assassin, So, and Scarlett Johansson just doesn't fit the bill. And I think she actually, kind of screwed herself when she did the Ghost in the Shell thing too.
Oh yeah.
She became overly popular, so they just kind of like sprayed her around. I think that was a bad move, but yeah. So I mean, but she has been the only Black Widow that we've seen on the big screen, so she kind of wears on you.
Yeah.
So I mean, she's done a good job, but character wise, they don't equal up.
Yeah, it's almost like she has more aura than the Black Widow in the comic. Like she stands out more, which maybe that's what they were going for.
Maybe,
but because in the comics, I don't know anyone that goes, Black Widow's my favorite. I want to see more of her. She's just always kind of there doing nothing.
Well, she does a lot. She does all this flipping and running around, just grab you around the neck and flip you over 10,000 times. So there's that.
Yeah, there's that whole thing. But anyways,
isn't that like the superhero jump or stop or landing?
Oh yeah, the little landing. Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah, she's got that definitely. Yeah. She's got that down. Next up, Adrian, a little what the fuck Rotten Tomatoes or critics versus audience. Yeah, I don't know which one to call it because I started calling
it the first one.
You like the first one? Yeah, some of our fans on TikTok like the first one. So and this is where we look at some Rotten Tomatoes scores. This one, I think some of these are a little closer than usual because I did want to go through all the Avengers movies. And really more, this is why there's no rules here because this segment's usually about who got it right, critics versus audience. There will be some of that. But also this is kind of turned into what would we score this movie? Because some of our friends on TikTok have, encouraged me to come up with our own scoring system.
Okay.
So I'm still working on it, maybe in a few weeks, But we should have a Only Comics meter, with all the fun word, like one movie can be an atrocity, could be they won't be numbers based.
The OCM.
There we go. The OCM. I like it. An atrocity could probably be the worst one. A masterpiece would be the top.
Like
it'd be a little different. So, anyways, we don't have that yet, so we're gonna go through the Rotten Tomatoes scores.
There we go.
I pulled up the Avengers movies. So, Avengers 1, Critics gave it a 91. Audience gave it a 91. So that's very unique. I've not seen that. We're not ran into that yet. We had a few that were close. So we can't say which one we would agree with. But do you agree that Avengers 1 is a 91? Would you rank it at 9.1 on a scale of 10?
I would.
Okay.
Again, because, certain movies set the tone.
Yeah.
For the other movies that come after it. Iron Man, the first Iron Man, the firsts,
right.
The Matrix, and then what happens after that, they could get better.
Correct.
Or like the Matrix, they get worse.
They get worse, yeah.
So I would agree with the 9.1.
Okay. Avengers Age of Ultron, a movie that we just revisited this past week. So stay tuned a little bit later. We're going to do a deep dive. Actually, that's up next. Critics gave it a 76. Audience gave it an 82.
I would go with the audience.
Okay.
Having watched it again.
Yep. Yeah, I would. Out of these, I'd go to the audience, but I would rank this movie higher.
I agree.
I feel like I'd put this on par with the first Avengers. I mean, neither one of the movies are perfect.
Right.
And it's kind of like, I feel like they each excel where the other one doesn't. Like, the first Avengers, I do not like the opening. The whole, it's really dark. You got the whole scepter thing. Nick Fury is the kind of it all revolves around. It feels very CW-ish.
I think you were upset because you feel like they robbed from Batman with the darkness.
Yeah, that's definitely it. No, I feel like they shot it on the same CW set they did the air. Like it felt like a TV show.
Yeah.
It didn't feel big, and it's like the end of the movie was great. Like the battle in New York, iconic. Even that, I think maybe the ending of the first Avengers was a little bit better than the Age of Ultron ending. Like the concept was great, but it was hard to portray that massiveness, on screen of a city floating. I feel like it lacked a little bit in the end. So anyways, but I would probably put these two movies on par, to be honest.
Sure.
Infinity War, critics 85, audience 91. I'm definitely leaning towards the audience.
Right.
Would you rank it higher than 91, Infinity War?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, it's got to be the best MCU movie. Yeah, up there.
This was for me because I'm always skeptical about cramming so much into one thing. And when that came out, I was like, okay, they did this pretty good.
Yeah.
And then it's like Deadpool and Wolverine was the perfection of the mass cramming. Because I was like, dude, how are they going to? I mean, I'm just looking at the commercials, right? All the cameos. Yep. Like, how are they going to do all this stuff? They did an excellent job with that.
Yeah, I feel like, I've said this before here, Endgame, that's the next one. Endgame has some of the best moments, but as a film, Infinity War tells a better story, in my opinion.
Sure.
It has that almost Empire Strikes Back feel of where the villain wins at the end. For a whole year, half of the MCU was killed off.
Right.
Pretty cool, when you think back. Like we've been so desensitized to big things on screen because so much shit happens, right? They snap, they're dead. They snap, they're awake. This guy's killed, he comes back. So nothing really feels that big. But at the time, dude, I remember leaving out the theaters like, dude, they killed off all the, like, you knew they were going to come back, but you didn't know when. You didn't know if we'd have to wait the whole year till Endgame. You didn't know how they were all going to come back. You didn't know if all of them were going to come back. So I think it was a big moment, something that was pretty bold to do and kind of kill off half your universe for a year.
Right.
Endgame, critics gave it a 94. Audience gave it a 90.
I'm good with either one of those.
Yeah.
I'm more leaning toward the critics.
Okay.
Again, bold moves. Some people came back, but then some critical ones went away.
Correct.
So that was a bold move.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it pisses you off, but the sign of a good movie is something that, drives you emotionally.
Yes.
Right? And it's like, why would they kill off, and Tony Stark, he's, been around for 1,000 years. Why you kill off Spinning Girl, Black Widow,
right?
Things like that. So it pisses you off, but they drew a line in the sand, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you're emotional about it, which is also what makes the movie good. So,
Yeah, I thought it was great. I would lean towards the audience. I think, 90 I think is fair. Like, is it better than the first two Avengers? Yes. Is it better than Infinity War? I don't think so. But yeah, I would lean more towards the audience on that one. Okay. Next up, your favorite movie, Adrian, The Eternals.
Oh, I thought you were going to say The Matrix.
No. The critics gave this thing a 47. The audience, believe it or not, they all got drunk right before they watched it and gave it a 77. I'd obviously lean towards the critics. I don't even think I need to ask you.
Yeah, this movie was...
You think 47's high, though?
Do I think 47 is high?
Madam Web is at 11%, by the way.
That's appropriate for Madam Web.
Okay.
I was just thinking is atrocious.
On our scale.
A best word for that movie, but I think atrocious is more in line with Madam Web.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's atrocious.
Snooze fest, maybe?
Snooze fest.
Okay.
I like that. I'll go with that.
Because, it wasn't, people, they're still confused. Like, why do you guys hate The Eternals? It was such a good movie. It was just very boring. It was not a good movie, and it was boring.
Right.
So, bad movie, boring. Bad combination, So
now, it did have potential. The most exciting thing about that movie for me was finding out they were basically androids.
Yes.
Long-lived androids. So because that appealed to my cosmic, multi-dimensional level of kind of thinking where, you got some race out there, these entities out there that are millions of years old, right? And they created something to watch over things, right? And they themselves are tens of thousands of years old, right?
Yep.
So that was the most exciting part to me. As far as everything else, shit.
No. That's a story that I think would have been better as a show.
Yeah.
You talked about them cramming so much into these movies. Partly why they're able to do that with some of these, like Infinity War, for example. There was almost 10 years of character, development before this happened. And Infinity War just took all those characters together and kind of gave you the rest of their arc. I mean, Thor's arc was great in Infinity War, but if it wasn't for the first 3 Thor movies and the first 2 Avengers movies, it wouldn't have hit as well as it did, So Eternals, you're just throwing all these new characters at us. We don't know what a damn Eternal is. We don't know what these those Celestials, like, you're dumping all this shit on us within like the first 10 minutes, and then you drag out and tell this insanely long backstory just to now tell us that they're androids, and then you end the film with the giant. Like, it was so much that I think it would have been better over a 6 or 8 episode miniseries.
Sure, yeah.
You could have done that over fucking Secret Invasion.
Right. Probably. Now, I'm always talking about characters being in the background, actors being in the background, and I'm not saying the Eternal story should not have been told.
Okay.
But I agree with you. It should have been done over a period of time or intermingled some kind of way instead of just hitting us. And then you got this whole Black Knight appearance at the end, and what happened with him, and it's just a bunch of weirdness.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good way to describe the Eternals, a bunch of weirdness. That could be a level 2 on our.
There you go.
Our meter's going to be crazy. It's going to be deep and wide, dude. Right. Over here, over there, you never know.
Right. And then it might change.
It might change. It will definitely change. I can tell you that. So, what's not going to change is what's coming up next. We're going to do a deep dive into Avengers: Age of Ultron. Little background on this movie. It was written and directed by Joss Whedon. So Joss Whedon's the same one that took over the Justice League movie when Zack Snyder left, performed an abortion on that movie, and then, Zack Snyder came back and tried to clean up the pieces and the whole deal. But Joss Whedon is also someone that is kind of canceled from Hollywood. We'll get into a little bit of that later, so that doesn't affect this movie, but I think it kind of did in a way. But anyways, written and directed by Joss. He wrote and directed the first Avengers movie as well. At this point, he was heavy influence over the phase 2 of the Marvel saga. Like, he had input on some of the other movies. Kevin Feige was kind of working with him a little bit as to where they should go. Now, Joss has he's written some comics back in the day. He also did. You ever seen the show Firefly? It was a space show.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
There was a show, and then they did a movie on it too. I never seen the movie. I've seen a few episodes of the show.
I have not seen the show. I saw the movie.
Okay. With what's the guy? Nathan Fillion plays the main character. Right. It almost feels a little Star-Lord-ish, right? Like it has little. It feels like a Guardians mixed with Star Wars, mixed with like a Western. Like, and I've only seen like maybe. I don't even think I've seen the entire first season, but I liked it, enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's like a ragtag group of bandits, space bandits going around, doing stuff. So it was cool.
So he's responsible for that. He was a writer or director, maybe both, on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer show in the 90s with Sarah Michelle Gellar. That show did really well. I never got into that.
Yeah, that show was crazy, dude.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get into it, but just the popularity of
it was big. Crazy. So, he's the one that brought the Avengers on screen for the first time. He's the one that, wrote and directed this movie. But this movie did, the budget for the movie was one of the most expensive movies to be made at the time. $445 million is what it cost to make this movie.
Damn.
Yeah. But the movie did 1.4 billion, I'm sorry, 1.4 billion at the box office. So they made their money back.
Right.
This thing came out May 1st of 2015, almost 10 years old, dude. So we both watched this over the past week, and I got some kind of ups and downs, but let's just kind of talk through some things we liked, some things we didn't. Right off the bat, I said this earlier, I really liked the opening scene.
Right.
That was great. They're attacking the Hydra facility. You get to see every Avenger kind of gets their shine in this, right? You got, Tony's making his little funny remark. We get that funny clip when Cap says language because Tony says shit or something, and they don't let it down throughout the whole thing. You get that really cool hero shot, where all the Avengers are going through the woods and the camera kind of pans around. Kind of reminds me of the shot in New York City in the first movie where the camera spins around when they kind of assemble for the first time. Right. So I really like that opening scene. I really like the usage of the twins, Wanda and Pietro. Hulk's rage, and I'm kind of just jumping around high level, but the whole Battle of Sokovia with, or not the battle, but when Hulk and Iron Man are fighting throughout the city, that was cool. You see the birth of Vision in this movie, right? Then there's some downs like the Black Widow, Bruce Banner, forced romance. Yeah. I hated that. The Hawkeye farm scenes were a little much at times, and I feel like you talk about the comic relief button. I feel like they were a little much at times in this movie. There were some scenes that would have probably felt better if they had a little more seriousness to them. I felt like even at some of the most serious scenes, everybody's cracking jokes. Like it's not Deadpool. Calm down. But as a whole, dude, I really liked this. It felt Avengers. You know what I mean? Like it. What about you? This is the first time you've seen this movie in how long?
Dude, I don't remember. As a matter of fact, the opening scene, speaking of that, I'm watching the opening scene, and I feel like I had never seen this
really?
movie in my
It's
life.
been that long?
It was like, 10 years, so much has happened.
Yeah.
We've seen and reviewed like a bazillion movies since then. But definitely I like the opening scene. I did not like, they could have kept that, Captain America Boy Scout shit out. Tony cursed over here. Come on, dude. You can leave that bullshit out.
Yeah.
I did realize that what's his face? That played Caps.
Chris Evans?
Yeah. So remember I said that in Deadpool and Wolverine he looked like got some Botox around his eyes or something. Well, I mean, he either had Botox early on or that's just the way he looks. Right. So I was like, wow, he's looks the same. Anyway, I did not like that Black Widow Hulk thing. I thought that was like nonsensical. I think the farmhouse thing was needed.
Okay.
It was like a reprieve, and it's also good to see that Hawkeye is grounded. It's crazy that amongst a group of killers and assassins and all this stuff,
and a literal god,
and a literal god, you got this guy over here keeping all this stuff away from all of them. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I like old Nick shows up everywhere, anywhere.
That
all
was
the time.
a cool scene.
So I like that stuff, and just the humanity of Tony Stark is like, dude, you guys got to get with it. I mean, I understand what we're trying to do, but like you said, the whole point is to not have an Avengers.
Correct.
Right? So it was definitely some dramatic moments. And so I'm on the fence about something, right?
Okay.
The guy that started being the voice of Jarvis.
Yep.
Right?
Paul Bettany? Bettany? I don't know how to say it, but yeah.
But he ultimately becomes the Vision.
Yep.
Right? So now, is that two separate characters? Or does he kind of like, he
evolved into.
He evolved.
Yeah. I would count it as one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. I'm like, is it two characters? Because he was kind of killed off by Ultron.
Right.
But out of Ultron, he was rebirthed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to count him as one.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I'm just sitting here mulling over it, I'm going to count him as one.
Well, we answer the hard questions here.
Exactly.
Yeah. The opening scene, we see Wanda for the first time, who I think they handled really well. Now, we see Wanda. We don't see Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is later on, right? But her powers look cool. It's funny, I was watching it with my daughter who's seen more of the newer stuff, and she's like, why does she have an accent there? Because she kind of lost the accent over time, which I kind of like her with the accent. She had a pretty good accent. Yeah,
she did. It's just like any other person that comes from another country to America, they become Americanized.
Right.
They start eating the shit food. They start talking, slang. I just lose all, identity.
Right. Unless you're from like Boston or Providence, you never stop saying "ka." My car keys.
What? Oh, car.
My car keys. Yeah, car.
Oh, okay.
See, it's like a whole nother language. We see
you haven't been down south.
Oh yeah, what? Right? Like, what? Dude, are you speaking English? Like, who's your dialect coach?
Exactly.
Fucking minions.
Exactly.
We see Wanda's power for the first time as she kind of puts these nightmare spells on the kid. And this is something, too, we'll talk about a little bit later, that didn't go over so well in early testing. I feel like some of it made sense, like the Tony, his vision of seeing almost what happens in Endgame.
Sure.
That, Thor's was a little odd because it kind of sent them on this weird journey. Then the whole cave scene, it was just, it felt very forced.
And the professor came out of nowhere. It's like, dude, why are you even here with a box?
Yep. And then you had the Black Widow one where it kind of brought her back to the whole Red Room where she's in the, like, it kind of seemed all over the place.
Well, that tied into the Bruce Banner relationship thing.
Right.
So they had to have that talk when he came out of the shower. So I think that was a tie-in more for that than having anything to do with the movie.
Right. And which is why I think it felt a little forced.
Right.
Because you took characters that in the first movie had no kind of, connection in that way. In the first movie, they was focused a lot on the whole Natasha and Clint relationship because Clint was under the spell from the scepter. Remember that in the first Avengers. So, and then you just kind of threw that off to the side, and now you're forcing this little romance where she's touching Hulk's hand, and all of a sudden he can't take it no more. Like the sun's getting a little low, big guy. Let me touch your palm. Like, come on, dude. Seriously, it was stupid. And the way they're just like, they're so in love, but neither one of them can act because like they have no idea, what's gonna happen, and I don't know, can't make a move. It was just, dude, it was vomit worthy actually.
Right. There was like 7 or 8 minutes in the movie they could have did something other more spectacular with it.
Seriously, have Hulk destroy 2 more buildings or something.
Like, extend the Hulk buster
for real
thing
when he's punching him in the head. Do that for like a whole 2 more mammies. Something shit.
Yeah, I would have took that like
it's
like let's do more of that.
Then of course at the Avengers party, Natasha has to be the bartender. Like come on. And it's so not her character. Like she's so not that. Stereotypical woman in movies. She's the badass assassin. We got her serving drinks. Like, come on.
Hey, but they had to force that scene.
They had
relationship. And then Steve, give it a chance. Come on, dude.
Yeah, that was it felt so out of place.
Do Boy Scout shit somewhere else, dude.
Right. So you don't like the whole, language, Steve. Like, it kind of made him look like a goof.
Yeah. No, I don't. It's like, you can't, he's a soldier.
Right.
Like Ultron said. I'm paraphrasing. Basically, you want to not have a war, but you want a war because that's where your thing is. That's your thing. You're a soldier. I mean, you force yourself into the army to become a soldier. You want to defend. You don't exist without a war.
Right.
So why are you trying to stop it? You know,
Correct.
kind of a thing.
Yep.
You know? But then you're this, global Boy Scout.
Right.
It's crazy.
The creation of Vision, I thought was cool. Very different from the comics. In the comics, isn't it?
Actually makes me want to take my hat off, man. This is pissing me off, man. It's like, come on, dude. Whatever. Anyway, moving on.
See, that's why I say you're Wolverine. See,
I'm feeling it.
The claws are about to come out, dude.
Right?
Shit, relax. The birth of Vision, I think, is a really cool scene.
Yes.
They get the scepter back, and Wanda shows Tony this kind of end of world scenario. No, and Wanda's smart, knowing that let him take the scepter. Now she didn't know exactly what he was gonna do, but she used Tony's own ego against him.
Right.
You see this end of world thing that I just showed you. Now you're gonna do everything in your power to prevent it. Hey, go ahead, take the scepter. Right. Go fuck around with it.
Now, what's cool about that portrayal of her power? Now we didn't cover this, but I do think that she did a very good job playing Wanda Maximoff.
Absolutely.
Right. What's cool about that power set is that she doesn't just randomly put something in your head. She sees what she puts in your head.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. So from that, she can deduce, what the outcome is, because because as she is putting that in his head, she's reading him, knowing that he's egotistical, and then letting him do this other stuff. So that's pretty cool.
And I like the backstory, which we actually see fleshed out more in WandaVision. We get to see that scene with her and Pietro where the bombs are dropping on their house, their parents are dead, and the one Stark bomb that doesn't go off. Then we learn that it was Wanda's powers that stopped it from going off, because they just say, it didn't, trigger. Like, dude, Tony Stark ain't making a bomb that's not going to blow up.
Exactly.
Everybody relax.
But it also makes you wonder why Tony didn't die a long time ago. It's like everybody's trying to kill him.
Yeah, for real.
Because his bombs have shown up like all over the world, right? He should just get sniped on the street corner,
And that was the theme that they followed in this movie where, Tony Stark's adversaries are self-created.
Right.
We saw it in the first Avengers movie with the, Ironmonger. We saw it in Avengers 2 with Whiplash. Right. We saw it in 3 with the guy who ends up playing, that version of the Mandarin. But it was all things that he did.
Right.
And then we saw it here where he essentially created Ultron. He creates this AI.
So is Tony Stark, so is Iron Man Batman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Same concept, right? So we saw it there, and he creates this AI, or it starts to. He convinces, Bruce against his will, as always. I like their dynamic in this.
Right. Well, he didn't convince Bruce. It exactly what when Thor got pissed off at him for creating him, he turns to Bruce, is like, basically, do you like shut down whenever somebody raises their voice or something like that? So so what he's pissing on him now about is the same that he actually did.
Correct.
He forced his will on Bruce Banner to go along with him to create this, or semi-create this thing.
Yep. So we see, he has this entity that then takes over Jarvis, kind of kills him. I like that holographic scene. That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
They're at the party. They're all trying to lift Mjolnir, and we do see Cap move it. Right. So that's something.
Did you see Thor get nervous?
Yes,
he saw that. He was like, wait a minute. Yep. And then he's like, yeah. You're not worthy. Whatever.
And that's why one of the things I love about Age of Ultron, it sets up so much for the future, and there's so many callbacks. Like in Endgame, when, Cap really does wield the hammer, Thor's like, I knew it. Well, how do you know? He knew it because he saw him fucking move it at the party. But that's Cap being Cap. He's like, I'm not trying to, you're trying to one up a god here. Like, let me just, it's that modest, humble Cap, And then as they're screwing around with the hammer, then Ultron shows up. All these little Ultron bots. They have a little fight right in the Avengers building, or the Avengers Tower. And then, Hulk just it kind of reminds me of Endgame when he cuts the head off of Thanos. Like, Ultron's right there, and he's like, fuck this guy. He throws the hammer, smashes him.
Thor.
You
said Hulk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, when Thor cuts off Thanos' head in Endgame,
right,
and he destroys Ultron, kind of simply just dismisses him, but then causes a bigger issue.
Right.
Because now you killed him, but he's already up in the internets, the interwebs everywhere.
Well, he thought that the threat was in front of him.
Correct.
Which is his first move.
Yep.
Because, he's a god, but in his realm, everything is a personal attack.
Right.
You know, the other beast, the ice this,
it's in your face.
That, it's in your face.
Yep.
He thought it's just by smashing this thing. Now, again, when you do that, you don't get any information.
No.
Why does this thing exist?
Correct.
Where did it come from? How did you create it?
Yep.
So no, he's basically Hulk.
Yes.
Right? Smash.
Yep.
So he did that, but yeah.
Yeah, it was true. It was true to the Thor character we've seen.
Warrior.
And we see a lot of the seeds planted for Civil War here. A lot of the dissension between Cap and Tony kind of starts with, like, I really like that. That hit home. Cap being frustrated with Tony not being a team player. He's not saying he doesn't agree. It's just like, dude, you can't just do this shit on your own and not tell us. Like, we're a team here.
Right.
You coming in, fucking everything up, and you just leave us out of it.
Right.
Now, partly, I think the reason he didn't share it with them is he knew they would be against it, and in his mind, he felt that he's right. We need to suit armor around the world. It's kind of what he said. Did you like the AI presence, the birth of Ultron, and how that was handled?
I did. I also, in the past, I've said that I didn't like Spader's voice as Ultron, but it kind of, watching it again, it actually made sense. Now, it made sense in my mind only because I also noticed something else. His lips were moving.
Yeah.
His Ultron, I mean, come on, dude. That was a bit much. You know, the Trump lip shit going on. It's like that was not necessary. But the voice did grow on me.
Gotcha. We touched on Quicksilver earlier in the hit or miss cast. How'd you feel about him throughout this film?
I think he did a good job.
Yeah.
You know, those two characters, the twin, I think that was good casting. Unfortunately, you know, they killed them off in the movie.
Right.
But those two, I think it was good.
Yep.
So if he does as good of a job in Kraven as he did in this, I think Kraven would be a good movie.
Absolutely. We see a big battle when Wanda then hypnotizes or whatever Hulk. She does a whole nightmare sequence and he spazzes out. And I think that, for me, that's one of the highlights of this film because that's what's missing with Hulk for me is the rage. Like, I actually like Hulk more in this movie than I do the first Avengers.
Right.
Because it's weird when Hulk knows what he's doing. I'm used to the Hulk who doesn't, like, you just kind of, hopefully you guide the rage enough, you know, and it seemed like the more these movies went on, the more in control they were of Hulk, and he kind of just became a non-issue, which is never really the case. But I love that, you know, when he just goes ape shit, and then, you know, Tony calls in Veronica, which they kind of tease earlier in the movie. He says, you helped build Veronica or whatever, and then we see it later. The only thing I don't like about this scene, and I think this goes back to the whole too much comic relief at times, dude, we're destroying buildings and killing people, and Tony's cracking jokes. I mean, it's part of it, it's Tony, but it just seemed a little much, in my opinion, you know?
I don't know. First of all, it's like, why did you create a Veronica? I'm thinking Veronica is something that's useful to everybody. Yeah. But it's only useful to Tony.
Correct.
You know, it's a Hulkbuster, you know, suit that sits or, you know, floats around and basically resuscitates itself whenever shit gets broken. It's like, whatever.
Yep. But how'd you feel about this fight between the two of them?
I thought the fight was great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, you know, King Kong and Godzilla destroying Tokyo kind of scene right there.
Right.
So
right.
I was cool with that.
Yeah. I think that was a major up. And then jump ahead a little bit, Ultron understands that he's just kind of a robot, but he wants to become close to what a human is, right? So we have this Dr. Helen who has this conveniently has this chamber that can generate tissue, right? We see it shown on a Hawkeye early on where he gets shot up or whatever. He gets hurt in the first little battle, and they recreate his own flesh.
Right.
So we have this machine that can regenerate human flesh. Ultron sees that, realizes with all the information, all the knowledge he has now, he's going to create a body for himself. He essentially become the closest thing to human that Ultron could become. Avengers pick up on this. They end up. That was a cool scene too, where they go kind of capture the cradle from them, like, you know, right up into the Quinjet or whatnot. And of course, they get this cradle back. Most of the Avengers are like, we need to like destroy this. And then Tony's like,
of course,
dude, why don't we just throw the AI in this shit, right? Like, and then Bruce, of course, is like, No, I don't want to. Okay, yeah, I will. He's got to be the most gullible friend. Like, dude, he's the guy you want to take wherever. Like, dude, hey, we're going to rob that store. I don't think we should. No, dude, we should. Okay, cool. Like, he's just, whatever, dude. Just, Bruce will do it. It's for someone who's that smart, he's fucking stupid.
Right. Hey.
So they're trying to put the AI in this, and then we get a little fight between the Avengers. You know, Cap's throwing the shield. Quicksilver runs in, unplugs the deal, because at this point, the twins realize, you know, what Ultron's up to. Right. So they bounce.
Right. So as Ultron is transitioning into this body, Wanda is now able to start feeling him because he's
correct.
Remember, I said synthesoid, which is what Vision is.
Yeah.
Right. So now he's becoming more human-like, and she realized that this dude is just mad.
Yeah, she can now read him.
Yeah, he just want to destroy the Earth.
Yep.
Just restart.
Yeah. It's we talk about villains that sometimes you can understand their plight, you know, like even Thanos to an extent, and you know, Magneto, of course, but Ultron, you're like, dude, you're almost up there high evolutionary level.
Right.
You know, not as psychotic. You do a better job of hiding it, but you're still psychotic.
Right.
I mean, he wants to just, you know, erase everyone, like you said, and kind of start over with his own version of people.
Right. But the thing about it is that he wants to become the ultimate of the very thing that he wants to destroy.
Yes.
Which is that's Dr. Doomish.
Yeah.
That's like what's this? Lex Luthor.
Yep.
It's like they want to become the person that they hate the most. You know?
Like Doom wanting to live Reed Richards' life. Right. Like, you know, I blame you for everything that happens to me, but I want your wife, I want your kids, I want your house, I want that fantastic car, everything.
Exactly. And they even said it, I forget who said it, but you know, he wants to become like a human, even though the human form is the most inefficient form. Right. You know, there is. So it's like, it's crazy. Yeah. Could have been a 8-legged robot. Could have been Doc Ock.
For real.
You know, somebody.
Yeah. You could have lived forever as a freaking synthoid, but you want to become this, human-like. So, anyways, the scene's happening. You know, they're all, and actually Hawkeye and Quicksilver have a little kind of back and forth throughout this movie. Because in the beginning, because Hawkeye's badass, right? He'd catch anyone, but he misses Quicksilver. Right. And he kind of, taunts him a little bit in the beginning. And then in this scene, when, because it's interesting to see where certain of the Avengers fall. Like some of them are on Tony's side, some of them are not. When Quicksilver unplugs the chamber, Hawkeye's underneath, and he shoots a couple bullets through the glass floor, and he falls through. So it's a whole, little thing that they had going back and forth. And then in the end, Quicksilver sacrifices himself for Hawkeye, which was a cool moment, but I don't think they should have killed him off.
Well, I don't think they should have killed him off, but how does Quicksilver get all shot up? We're talking about some warthog, spent uranium bullet kind of thing.
Correct.
Coming out of that gun, and Quicksilver gets all the bullets, and Hawkeye or the kid, neither one of them gets touched. I mean, that should have just went right through him like butter.
Sure.
So maybe that's a Quicksilver power. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't have got shot up
his
like that.
Power is he can die for
touched.
you. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, shouldn't he have just grabbed Hawkeye and the kid and off because he's that fast?
Right.
Like that.
So I got to get in the way of the bullets. I got 20 bullets in me, yet I can still move like I move.
Couldn't he got there quicker? He is Quicksilver. But anyway, Thor comes down, and because he gets this vision that sends him off into the cave, and somehow he learns all about the Infinity Stones like that. Like that felt so forced, dude. He goes down the cave, and all of a sudden we see Infinity Stones. Like, what the fuck is this?
And what was the point of bringing the Doctor back if he wasn't? I mean, he has these he's got to get sober in real life to show up in a movie for 30 seconds. You know, it's like, what was the point of that?
Maybe they owed him a paycheck. Who knows? But Thor comes down, and he kind of disregards everyone, and he's got his little hammer. He zaps the chamber, and that's a perfect enough power to bring this entity to life, right? And then we see the birth of Vision, which I thought was a really cool moment. Yeah. And both these characters, Vision and Ultron, different than the comics, their origins and whatnot. Do you prefer the Age of Ultron origin, or do you like these characters' comic origins better?
My theme is I'm partial to the firsts.
Okay.
So I like the comic book origins better.
Got it. Because with Ultron, it was based more around Hank Pym than Tony Stark, right?
Yep.
And Vision, I don't remember much about his origin, but there's no Jarvis AI in Vision. He's a separate character in the comics. But I thought this was cool. And then, Vision's born. At first, they think he's a threat. And then he kind of shows, he has his little speech or whatnot, and first of all, he shows that don't fuck with me because I'm a badass. I got just much power as all you,
right.
maybe even more. And then he lifts Mjolnir, hands it back to Thor, and then Thor's like, okay, I'm in. Like,
right.
I think that was a cool moment.
Yeah.
So I'm all about, the Vision. I think the issue with Vision for me is he was never as cool as he was in this movie. They nerfed him.
Yes.
Like, a guy who can lift Thor's hammer, I'm supposed to believe that one of Thanos' goons is going to sneak up behind him, stab him with a little knife, and now he's, like, about to die?
Theatrics and convenience.
Yes. I call it bullshit. So, anyways, Burt the Vision was cool. And then, and we're kind of, wrapping up. We see the Ultron's big idea is he's going to lift Sokovia up in the air and then drop Sokovia as like a, what's the shit? What's asteroid almost? Like a big comet, if you will. Like a comet, bashing into the earth and wiping out everyone. Kind of wanted like what they did to wipe out the dinosaurs.
Right.
He wants to do the same thing. What'd you think about that ending? The city floating and all that?
Theatrics and convenience.
Oh, yeah. Seemed a little much. And this is why I say, like, I think the end, I get the concept. I don't know that it came across that well on screen. The endless amounts of Ultron bots seemed a little just lazy, and eventually, Vision being the one to kill Ultron, I thought was appropriate. I like that. One Hawkeye dialogue that I really like at the end is when this is after Pietro is killed. Wanda's kind of like, she's panicking. She's inside the cave, like, she don't know what to do with herself. And Hawkeye's like, just come on. Like, and I know it doesn't make sense. A city is floating and I have a bow and arrow. Like, it was like, I think it's one of my favorite Hawkeye lines ever. Yeah. Like, it's floating. I have a bow and arrow. It doesn't make sense. Let's just go,
Yeah. But wasn't that Sokovia was like, that moment, wasn't it like a Magneto dumping the stadium on the White House kind of moment?
Yes.
It's like this massive exertion of power and will and force for what?
Yeah. Nothing. Nope, because he was stopped ultimately.
Exactly.
And, so, yeah, again, not a perfect movie. I do think it's kind of on par with the first Avengers movie. I do think that Infinity War, Endgame, they're definitely better than these two, but it sets up so much. It sets up, the Tony and Cap kind of divide that we see in Civil War. It sets up Baron Zemo's revenge because if you remember in Civil War, the whole reason why he's, kind of stirring the pot with these guys is because his family was killed in Sokovia. The Sokovia Accords, the whole dilemma in, the whole divide in Civil War is based off of this event and others where the Avengers caused, almost more destruction than they did help. Like, it looks like they helped. They did save people, but they also killed a lot of people. They also, which I love all that. I love when the reality is kind of brought into the comics where, like, instead of, like, we're having these crazy battles, people are dying, no one gives a shit. No, someone's going to want you to answer for, hey, my family was killed in this, I know you try to save everybody, but it's a war, essentially.
Right.
And you got civilians just running around fighting wars.
Yeah. What is it? They're looking for Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
They haven't made a decision on whether or not, they're going to actually arrest him or whatever, but they so a lot of that stuff makes sense.
Right. Yeah, we see that's another point they set up is Bruce Banner, flying, taking the Quinjet off into space somewhere, which we don't see him again to Thor Ragnarok, and now he's, almost like that Planet Hulk story.
Right.
So this movie, dude, was a really, it's almost a cornerstone movie for the MCU. Like, it's an essential viewing for anyone, like, you see all these lists sometimes, like essential movies you have to watch, because there's 30-something movies.
Right.
If I'm going to get caught up, odds of me watching all 34 of them are probably not going to happen. But there's some, like, if I want to get caught up again, there's certain beats you got to hit, and this is one of them.
Yep.
So anything else on the movie from you?
Like I said, I felt like I was watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
A lot of cool stuff, like you said, a lot of pivotal moments. I think at the ending, too, they also showed like a post-credit where the white Vision.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. a lot of really cool moments, but some nonsensical stuff. And, you know, when you're sitting there watching it, oh, well, they should have left that out. But even the parts that they should have left out made the movie what it was.
Yeah.
It was an entertaining movie. You can't get too pissed about it because, A, it's a comic book movie. Right. It was entertaining.
It was.
I'll put it like that.
I've seen this movie more than I've seen the first Avengers.
Really?
I've rewatched this movie more. I think it has more rewatchability for me than the first. Like, I love the first Avengers movie.
Because in your mind, the fact that you've seen all these other movies, you're like, oh shit, that's where that started from.
Correct.
Oh shit, that's where that started from. So you can look at it and actually see where the strings go. Whereas before, you didn't even know that there were strings.
Right.
You know?
I mean, the Hawkeye show happens because we learn about his family here, right? Like the whole, you know, synopsis of the Hawkeye show is he's away during Christmas dealing with this, you know, kind of mini Avengers level threat, nothing crazy to where he has to bring in the whole team, and he's trying to get it done and get back to his family because he's supposed to be retired, you know? So it sets up a lot, and it also sets up the whole Hawkeye turning into Ronin because we meet his family here. Right. Then his family's wiped out in Endgame. He thinks it's the Yakuza or whatever, so he's going on this murdering spree. So this movie's a catalyst for a lot of other stories in the MCU. So I that's why I would probably put it on par, maybe even even higher than the first Avengers. Who knows?
It also makes him, you know, relevant because remember, you know, he's a D class, you know, character, right? You know, in the comics, and now, you know, he's going off and murdering people and all this other kind of stuff, which, you know, you know,
absolutely. So anyway, ups and downs. So I'd give this movie the ups for me. I got 6 of them. Actually, I'll start with the downs. We'll start with the bad stuff. We'll save the dessert for last station. Okay. The downs for me: Black Widow and Bruce Banner's forced romance. That's a huge down. Okay. The Hawkeye farm scenes, I think, are a little too much. Like, I like that they gave us the sense of family, but maybe they could have been shortened a little bit.
Sure.
And then I do think the comic relief was a little much at times. Okay. Some of the more serious, like we're meeting Ultron for the first time in this new form. I mean, they're trying to kill each other, and he's making jokes about omelets and shit. Like, it was funny, but it was not needed. Yeah. You know? The ups for me: the opening scene was phenomenal. It really set the tone for the movie. The whole Hydra facility, Baron Strucker, we see him. You know, that big hero shot we talked about, the twins, Iron Man's vision. Second up is how well it sets up the future of the MCU. Just how all these little loose ends get tied up eventually, and this really kind of was the origin for a Civil War, Infinity War, all those good stories. 3 is it just feels Avengers. It was almost nostalgic watching it. You're like, oh, this is the Avengers we used to have. Like it felt like an Avengers movie. Right. Hulk's rage is another up for me, to really see the Hulk portrayed, probably one of the best portrayals of Hulk we've seen in the MCU at least. The birth of Vision, huge up. That whole, and that also led to WandaVision and an integral part of Infinity War. Sure. And I really like the AI thread. I thought that was a cool kind of beat. So anything you want to add as a down or an up for you?
The downs for me were really, you know, minute, bordering nonsensical. Yep. You know, the whole, you know, Steve Rogers, the Boy Scout thing. You know, the cracks for Tony, that didn't bother me as much as the Steve Rogers thing. The romance, you know, Black Widow and the Hulk, that kind of a thing. Yeah. I think that took up such a huge part. Even the wife was like, "Oh, well, how long has this been going on between Clinton and, you know, Nat and blah blah blah?" So Hawkeye's like, "What are you talking about?" You know, typical dude shit.
Correct.
So, you know, those type of things. But again, I think the farm scene was not essential, maybe a little drawn out. Yeah. But I think considering what the movie was, it was necessary.
So, something like that was needed.
Yeah. So outside of that, and Ultron's lips moving. I mean, you're made out of titanium, and your lips are doing all this bullshit. The ups, you know, I grew into James Spader's voice. Yeah. That was pretty cool. Toward the end, it didn't make sense to me. You know, Ultron was stuck in this, you know, body that Vision destroyed. Why wasn't he? Because to me, an AI is everywhere. Right. And it leaves bits of it wherever it goes. Correct. So Ultron should have been able to reconstitute himself from anywhere,
right,
or everywhere,
which we might see soon because he is coming back in Vision. So so maybe he was taking a nap, dude.
And so we see Vision blast. Well, we didn't see him.
No, we didn't.
Right. So is Vision just like any other? Is Vision like, because he's a creation of Tony Stark? Your kids have parts of you in them, right?
Yeah.
So is Vision naturally curious as well? Maybe he took in
some Ultron,
contained him, right? And then just destroyed the body.
Well, he is part Ultron because Ultron was being dumped into the body before Jarvis. And they even made some kind of comment like he's Bruce, he's Tony, he's Ultron, he's Thor, because, the whole hammer deal.
Yeah.
So,
maybe Vision has some daddy issues. Your kids, you might, beat your kids, but they love you to some degree. They might not want to see you completely destroyed, even though they hate you.
Correct.
Right? So he might have preserved part of Ultron and then just destroyed the body.
And now Vision, the Vision we know from this movie is dead, but there's the white Vision that took over, who's kind of a little more evil, right? So maybe he helps, helps resuscitate Ultron in some way, shape, or form. But
I'm definitely gonna go on. I'll probably sit down one day. Rainy season is coming up, so I might sit down one day and just watch this movie again.
Yeah.
Just for all of, because there is so much. What's the guy, the arms dealer?
Oh, Ulysses Claw.
Right.
Yeah.
So that explains how the arm goes away.
Dude just knocks it off. Like he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then he puts all his money in his account.
Right. So that explains that trajectory, which is cool. Yep. So just a lot of stuff to digest after the fact.
Correct.
We've seen all these movies, and now the movies make even more sense because like you've seen Deadpool, Wolverine like 13 times, right? And you probably still every time you go, you see something new.
I need to go again. Right. You're right.
Now I'm doing this thing.
Oh, you're on it. So, American people.
So you after seeing all the movies that we've seen, to go back to the origin, you realize, oh, that started there. Oh, that started there. It's almost like somebody took a giant whiteboard, and I'm sure that's how they make these movies.
Right.
And they say, okay, well, we want to start with these movies, and we want to, and it's going to splinter out to all of these different things. And I think that's cool.
Yeah.
That you can think about something, how it's going to work over 10, 15 years, and you map it out, and then you make this stuff happen. But then at the end, after you got 34 movies or whatever it is, you can go back and watch the origin and be like, oh shit, now I see the strengths.
Yeah. And before we move on, I had a little story prepared for you, Adrian. Okay. So it's about what went wrong with Age of Ultron. You can call it my Yapathon if you want.
Okay.
But Joss Whedon. So we've talked about this before with Edward Norton's a perfect example. I thought he was a great Hulk, great Bruce Banner.
Sure.
He wanted to really add his creativity and change some things script wise, which is very normal for most movies. Like the actors do collaborate with direct, but for the MCU, it's not normal because they have this big story they're looking to tell. And if you want to be cutesy and artsy and it may not fit their stories. It's like, dude, that's not what we're doing here. So I think as someone who's never been on any movie, it sounds like it's a different filming environment than it is for the average movie. You hear so many stories of, this director worked with this actor and they crafted this story here. That doesn't necessarily happen in Marvel. They have a way of doing things.
I think times have changed between the Edward Norton and the Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Because Ryan Reynolds is all over this Deadpool.
True.
So
when it works, they're good with it. Right. But if Ryan Reynolds starts, hey, you know what? I want Green Lantern to show up. And they're like, whoa, dude, slow down. So,
I don't think Ryan Reynolds wants Green Lantern to show up anywhere.
No, he definitely doesn't. But Joss Whedon and Marvel, they were at odds during the production of this movie, which I think some of it shows. So, and Joss was kind of limited by Marvel's vision. Now, Joss Whedon came out after the fact and said Marvel broke him when he made this movie, right? So then in 2020, dude, there was all kinds of shit that came out about Joss Whedon. He essentially has been canceled from Hollywood. Everybody he's worked with has pretty much said that he's nasty. He runs in a toxic environment. He's gross. Ray Fisher from Justice League, guy who played Cyborg, said he was gross, abusive, unprofessional. Jason Momoa said that he was in support. He said that it was shitty the way they were treated on the sets and the reshoots, and saying that serious stuff went down. And remedial action had been taken by Warner Brothers. So, like, this is Gal Gadot, who played Wonder Woman, said that she even took some issues up to the higher-ups. There was also a sexual scene that he wanted her to shoot, and she didn't want to. So, and it's funny because the same scene is in Age of Ultron. You remember in the bar scene when the Ultron bots are attacking Avengers Tower, and Bruce falls on top of Black Widow, right? Mm-hmm. So Joss wanted to do the same thing in Justice League movie with Ezra Miller and Gal Gadot, right?
So to take a scene out of Ultron, if I could physically throw up in my mouth.
Yep.
Ezra Miller, come on, dude.
So Gal was like, no. And not only that, it's Wonder Woman and Flash. Like, so she said no. He still shot it with a body double. She was like, I'm not doing it. They wanted him, Ezra to fall with his face all up in this, area. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I'm not doing that. And it didn't fit either one of their characters anyways.
Gal Gadot doesn't have an area.
In the breastplate, okay? Okay. But anyways, she's like, no, I don't want to do it. So they were kind of as at that. And then he had a body double come in and shoot the shot anyways.
So he forced the issue.
He made the shot. Yeah, it's just, yep. Do people from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they actually called him a vampire and Casually Cruel. One actress said that he called her fat and asked her if she was going to keep it after he learned that she was pregnant. Like, just a lot of crazy shit. I mean, the list goes on and on. Gal Gadot, she goes on. Now, Joss Whedon claimed that Gal misunderstood him because English was not her first language. And then he called Ray Fisher a bad actor in both senses. So he didn't respond that well to these claims. Everyone has pretty much said these things have happened, and then he kind of got canceled from. Now, anyways, what does that have to do with this? It just tells me he probably is difficult to work with, right? Like, if we're assuming this is true. Now, the studio, Marvel Studios, working on this film where they clashed, they didn't like the nightmare scenes. They didn't like the Hawkeye farmhouse scenes. And the cave scene with Thor was originally a lot longer. They didn't like that either. So he fought with them to keep the farmhouse and the nightmare scenes in. He removed a good chunk of that cave scene. That's why that when Thor goes into the cave, it seems like it's building up and then it just, nothing happens, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess it was even worse the longer it went on. So, but he fought. He also wanted to introduce two new characters, Captain Marvel and Spider-Man. Captain Marvel wasn't even casted at the time, and Sony owned Spider-Man, so they couldn't do that. So it's kind of sound like he was trying to make this his own thing, and the little bits that he did have, kind of his touches on, I feel like were some of the parts that would have been better if they were removed. But in doing that, they still made a great film. But it's just interesting, and he's been long gone. Now, I don't know what he's been doing in the past, 5-10 years, probably nothing because he's been canceled by everyone. But it's crazy how much of this goes on in Hollywood. You get a really good director who's just an asshole to everyone, nasty but makes good movies, and eventually it catches up with them. But all that being said, it's impressive that with that going on, because I'm sure if it happened on Justice League, it happened here, sure, they still made this amazing film.
See, I got to push back to a degree because you hire people to do specific things. So, Hawkeye, right?
Yeah.
You got a dude that has nothing to do with the Avengers, right? He in the Avengers landscape, he's like the least common denominator. A guy that's good shooting arrows. Now, most of the arrows came from who? Probably Tony, right?
Yeah.
Since he just pays for everything and make everybody looks cool, right?
Yep. I like that was a line from the movie.
Exactly. So what does that mean? You hire somebody for a very specific things. A basketball player, a football player, a hockey player, or, using a sports analogy. They are very great at a singular thing, which is what you're hiring for.
Yep.
They abuse their wives or girlfriends. They get tickets because they like the speed or whatever.
Right.
Everything else, they suck. Mm-hmm. But it is one thing. And I think, that's where the Joss Whedon falls. He's very good at making movies sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah.
But he's shit in every other aspect. So yeah, we hired you to do this thing. Keep him away. If you want the movie, keep him away from all these other interactions, which is what support people are for.
Right.
Keep him away from all these other interactions and let him flow in his space.
Gotcha.
And that is that. That's all artists. Da Vinci, weirdo in so many other ways, great at inventing things. In other words, transforming his mind into something material that you can see it.
Yeah.
You have a craft. Flow in that space, figure out a way, if you're self-reflective, figure out a way to get all the other nonsense away from you, right? So you can flow in your craft, and then other people will take care of it. So you're going to have people saying, well, he sucks at that, she sucks at that, they're doing all these other crazy things. That's because they haven't been isolated enough so they can focus on their craft. So I got to do some kind of pushback.
Okay.
Because you hire me to do this thing. I'm great at this one thing. I suck at this other stuff. Then figure out how to, let me do my shit, and you take care of the rest of it.
So you're kind of saying they should have known.
Well,
what they were getting.
Well, they definitely should have known.
Yeah.
But I mean, that doesn't excuse his libelous actions and stuff like that.
But almost why bring him in?
Exactly.
Anyways? Yeah.
Exactly. Either shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Do or you don't.
Which is why even though the Russo brothers announcement, it went over pretty well. There's still a pocket of fans that go, that's lazy, that's stupid. But I think it's actually genius because you should work with the directors that number one, are going to work well with you, right? Like, Joss Whedon obviously wasn't a good fit for the MCU. Made a couple movies, sure, but they clashed probably more than they didn't. And they're like, dude, we're not having him ever again because look what happened here. Not that the Russo brothers come in and do everything they're told, but what they do fits the MCU.
Sure.
And we also have not heard anything about them, doing anything behind the scenes inappropriate or being nasty. Like everything you hear about Tony, I always want to call him Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. specifically said, I'm only coming back if the Russo brothers come back.
Sure.
I'd imagine if Joss Whedon was back for Doomsday, he'd be like, dude, I'm out.
Right. So just because you're a mad scientist, that doesn't mean if you're a mad scientist at making widget A, that doesn't make you a mad scientist to create any widget.
Right.
If that makes any sense. So in other words, just because you can do something, that doesn't mean that you should be doing it over here.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
but that doesn't take away the fact that you are creative. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to preserve the fact that people are creative, but they might have other things that make them not a fit, but that doesn't mean that they're not creative. That just means that they haven't found the space in which they can flow.
Yeah. I mean, looking at his writing credits, these are not just writer credits on movies. Buffy Vampire Slayer, the first Toy Story movie he wrote. I didn't know that. Alien Resurrection, the 97 Alien movie. Titan AE, never seen. Serenity, that's that movie that is based off of the Firefly show.
Right.
So he actually directed and wrote that. Cabin in the Woods, he wrote and produced. The Avengers, he wrote and directed. Some other movie, In Your Eyes, he wrote. Age of Ultron, he wrote and directed. And then Justice League, he wrote. And then shows, he actually was a writer on 4 episodes of Roseanne, Parenthood, Buffy. He wrote the entire show. The show Angel, directed 6 episodes, wrote 11 of them. Firefly, directed 3 episodes, wrote 5. The Office, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he directed and wrote the pilot. So, dude's got some pretty good writing credits. And then he's also written some comic books back in the day. To your point, he is creative. He is good. He wrote X-Men comics, Captain America, wrote some of that, some Superman, Batman crossover stuff. So it's done a lot creatively. Right. But, it's kind of like what you're going to get with him.
Right.
He's not.
And clearly, one of his works has not been himself.
Correct.
So he, over all this time, he became more emboldening in himself because I can do all this stuff.
Right.
Based off that list, he was all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely creative. It's just that, he spent no time working on himself and self-reflecting because you don't, even though you can create something, that doesn't mean that, you're a right fit.
Right.
So
part of it, I think, is a little bit, you got to put some of the blame on Hollywood.
Sure.
Because Alfred Hitchcock is known for being an ass on set. And he's always quoted, though, as one of the best directors ever, right?
Right.
So not saying that, it doesn't excuse it, but I think Hollywood's let this go on for so long. Like, oh, he's so creative. It's okay if he smacks this guy and cusses this one out because look at the final product, right? They never held him accountable, which it's like that doesn't connect with this. It should be like, dude, don't act like an ass on set. Make your good movie, but don't do all this shit, Right. But anyway.
Don't send OnlyFans pictures of yourself
there you go.
As an inspiration to your teammates.
For Gambit. All right, Adrian, we respond. This is where you comment, we respond. So got a handful here. Our boy God Mode's back. He says, and this is actually fitting for the week. He says, which comic book villain you guys think was actually right? Motive/mission. To me, Ultron, Thanos, Magneto. So I think he names all three. Now, I guess we can include anyone, even outside of here, but if I'm picking from his list, Magneto's the only one where I go, I think he was right. Mutants and humans were not going to be able to live together the way he wanted to. So if I'm on Magneto's side, bro, fuck them humans, But Ultron, I think, was too crazy. And Thanos, like, dude, you have the power of a god. Just make more resources instead of killing half, but whatever. You agree, or is there one that's not on this list where you go, you know what, this guy's right?
I agree with Magneto.
Yeah.
The other two were just too apocalyptic.
Yeah.
What
about Doom?
Huh?
What about Doom?
Doom is I like his protectiveness.
Yeah.
But Doom is, Thanos is about destroying everybody.
Yeah.
Or most people. Ultron is about destroying everybody.
Everyone.
Doom is not. I think his thing is protection.
Yeah.
But he goes about it in his own way. I don't think it's maniacal.
Right.
I just think he is, he's on his own mission.
Yeah.
I'll put it like that. But as far as Magneto, out of those three, I would think Magneto's, the more on mission.
Yeah. Would you compare Doom more with Magneto's mission than the other two? Because Magneto's about his people. Now, his people happens to be a whole race of people, mutants. Doom's is just the people in his country.
Not really. Doom is humans.
Okay.
But he's definitely going to protect his own first.
Yep.
So relatable, but not necessarily the same thing.
Gotcha. All right. Well, there you have it, God Mode. King Dad Gam on TikTok says, question for the podcast. If James Cameron had a change of heart and wanted to direct superhero movies, which ones could y'all see him directing? Now, James Cameron, great director.
Right.
One of my favorite James Cameron movies is Terminator 2. It was one of the really early 90s blockbusters, action movie, kind of took shit to another level. I could see him directing these movies. He's the Avatar and stuff. If I had to, I think he would do really well in the Captain America series. That level of like ground street action kind of reminds me of the Terminator 2, right? I think he could do an Avengers movie.
Sure.
He has that level of talent. So I would say Avengers or maybe something in the Cap series. Actually, what they should do is let him do a Hulk movie. That level of, blockbuster action with the Hulk. So I'd say one of those three.
I think he can do any.
Yeah.
The thing that came to my mind initially was Justice League. I think James Cameron could do any movie.
He could do Justice League justice.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Right, no pun intended.
So there you have it. Justice League, Avengers, or Hulk. I think those would be.
I would just say any, dude.
Any. Yeah. Sons of Sekhmet. Sons of Sekhmet? Our boy's back. He has an agree to disagree question. Dr. Manhattan could solo Thanos even with the Infinity Gauntlet. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
There you go. We talked about Dr. Manhattan last week, was the hidden gem, so go back to that episode to check that out. J-Dub 2022, Age of Ultron is so underrated, sets up so much of the Infinity Saga, and is just a ton of fun. That's a great way to put it.
And I agree after watching it for the second time.
Did you say it was a fun movie?
Fun? Because I'm comparing.
Deadpool Wolverine is like the epitome.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I think it was strategic. I think it was, in depth.
Yep.
Deep and wide. But fun, not necessarily, but definitely entertaining.
Okay. I'd go with fun. I had fun watching it. Next up, last comment. Tim Walker, 385, says, Ezra Miller was terrible in The Flash. Grant Gustin as the Flash was amazing. Now, which Flash was this? Was the show that
CW?
Okay,
Flash.
yep.
You agree? I definitely agree.
Yeah,
I did on both fronts. Ezra Miller sucked, and Grant was great. And the CW, it's almost like it's a disappointment. Just like I thought, what's his face in Smallville should have been the next Superman.
Yeah.
Grant should have been the on-screen Flash, and you kind of like, it's like a heart tug when you don't see these characters. Yeah. Make it to the big screen, but whatever. I
watched a few episodes of this. I think it was put on Netflix at one point. The Flash show, possibly, or no, it used to be on Hulu. That's what it was.
Sure.
I saw a few episodes of that CW Flash, and I do like the Grant as Flash.
Right.
I mean, dude, I'd like you to play Flash over Ezra Miller. I mean,
beard flapping in the wind.
Bro, you can wear the Captain America hat and wear that Only Comics shirt that you can get on onlycomicsmerch.com, by the way.
Well, I would have to turn the hat around because there's a windbreak.
Yeah, true.
Which Captain Falcon, obviously, they haven't figured that out yet with the shield and all that kind of stuff.
So anyways, I agree with Tim Walker. Next up, Adrian, Hidden Gem. We're going overtime today. Look at that. Yeah. So Hidden Gem, what we got going on today?
I'm gonna make it quick.
Okay.
And we've been talking about this person this whole episode, pretty much.
Can I guess?
Who?
Ultron.
No. Vision.
Okay. Just as good.
Yep. So this guy, Synthezoid, actually that's where I got my whole terminology from, because he was the first one in comics, I think, fact check, that they described it as a Synthezoid.
Oh, Vision was?
Yeah, Vision.
Okay.
Which is basically an advanced robotic, an AI-powered robot that more simulates a human.
Okay.
So Synthezoid. So obviously a lot of power. Matter of fact, the Avengers, the Age of Ultron, they were saying that if this entity came alive, and at that point they were talking about Ultron becoming this human-like form, he would have as much or more power than all of the Avengers together.
Okay.
Which was the point, right? So, don't want to go into the backstory because it's you saw it in the Age of Ultron. The comic book version wasn't that far off, but the whole point was that the Vision was created by Ultron.
Even the comic one was created by Ultron. Yeah.
So power sets, pretty much amazing. Phase. He basically has a computer for a brain. Obviously able to tap into anything. He has one of the Infinity Stones, or had before they took him out. Able to lift, tonnage. Everybody can lift tonnage. So just an amazing character. I think he was nerfed in the movie. He came out strong, and then they nerfed him, right?
Yeah.
Throughout the rest of the movies, but again, I don't want to go into the power sets and the history because again we've gone through all that. But an amazing character. I definitely think even in the comics he wasn't brought out that much. So I think they can do a lot with him, and the fact that he can become like the Martian Manhunter, right? Because Vision, one of his powers is that he can basically cloak himself or make himself look like something else.
Okay.
Whereas the Martian Manhunter can actually transform himself into somebody else and just walk down the street. Just like Jocasta, she had this mirror technology where she can make herself appear to be a human as opposed to a stainless steel robot walking down the street. So the Hidden Gem this week for timing, do your own research on it, but an amazing character, a character that can be portrayed. Now, again, not a Superman, Spider-Man kind of a character where you can make a whole movie about him, but definitely somebody that should be revisited and that we could see and can just be all over the place. So that's
Got it. Vision. And we touched on a little bit. Paul Bettany, I believe is the name.
Paul B.
How do you feel about his portrayal of Vision?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think he did it excellent. Even the transition, because I was always like, but watching the Age of Ultron, he actually, as far as the acting is concerned, he transferred very well from the unseen Jarvis AI voice to the Vision.
Right.
So I think he did a good job at it.
What a change from just an actor, I guess kind of workload, because prior to this movie, dude, he just showed up in the recordings. He probably sent his lines in, right? Like now he's all full makeup, suit.
Sure.
And I really like the design of Vision on screen. Like I think it was done really well.
Yep. Some of the stuff you look at, it's like the costume is wrong, but then they actually made it better.
Yes,
just like Deadpool's uniform, they made it actually better. I think in the movie, even though that fetching doll or whatever it is that I had, it's a pretty good suit too.
Yeah,
but I also like the range that they had. So he goes from Jarvis the Unseen to the Vision, and then we pivot over to WandaVision. So even his acting is like a huge range, because he goes from like just this stoic voice to like family man, a little bit of humor here and there. So even his range has just got gone crazy.
Yes, he obviously was the right choice.
Right,
and I love WandaVision. Yeah, show that is the. I'll be honest, I'm not crazy excited about Agatha yet. It feels a little hocus pocus-ish to me. Yes. But the part that has me interested is the tie to WandaVision.
Right.
Because if you judged WandaVision by the first few clips of like the old sitcom type, you wouldn't have known how good it actually got. Right. So I'm not going to prejudge. I'm going to watch it. Shit, nothing else on.
Right.
But
definitely no DC.
Yeah, there's no DC shows. Well, the Penguin, but that'll be done in a few weeks. So I because of that, and also because of Ultron coming back in the Vision show, and they have kind of labeled this Agatha show as like the second in this whole trilogy. I'm interested in it.
Sure.
So and dude, Wanda is one of my favorite characters in the MCU.
Yeah. So Wanda caught me by surprise, like Miss Marvel caught me by surprise. Yeah. It was entertaining. It was like, wow. I mean, you look at it on the surface and you think it's going to be this one thing, but then it turns out to be this other completely different thing.
Right.
So I enjoyed both shows. I like WandaVision better than Miss Marvel, but Miss Marvel was definitely, it stands in my mind as one of those things like, wow. I mean, surprising.
Yeah.
But definitely, worth watching.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's Hidden Gem. Check out the video. I like what you're like. Do your own research this week. But no, Vision, great character, and I think one that we've actually did see done right on screen, and I'm glad we're getting to see continue, because having him killed off, it's like, I'm kind of I understand what killing a character does for the movie, but sometimes with a cinematic universe like this, it kind of ruins the story. And it's comics, dude. They always come back. So unless you're Uncle Ben, or as you put it, T'Challa in the MCU. Right. So we got to see T'Challa, man. He was in the 85, and it was nice to see. But, what's funny is, what was trending last week? Recast T'Challa. So they dropped that trailer, and so people are watching only comics. They agree with us.
Absolutely.
And we should start a petition, dude. And it's not out of any slumming, Chadwick Boseman, great portrayal. I mean, it's horrible what happened to him at that young age, dying of cancer, and I feel sorry for him, his family, the whole deal.
Right.
But the character should live on. I feel like that would kind of honor him even more than just throwing him off, in the trash.
Right. And I think it should be T'Challa, not his ancestors.
Correct.
And not the son growing up.
Yes.
It should be T'Challa. I don't think he's had enough run on the big screen as a Black Panther.
Yep. So, anyways, we're going to wrap up with Agree to Disagree. Are you ready, Adrian?
Let's do it.
So, there's not a lot of rules here. One of the rules is I'm going to rapid fire my opinions and takes at Adrian. He's going to let me know if he agrees or not. Now, sometimes with these, I may contradict something I said in the past. I may say something I said in the past because it just feels relevant, okay? Right. So if you're like, I heard that before, you're probably right, and you may hear it again next week, What if I just gave the same list every week and see if you change your mind? You never know what's going to happen.
You never know.
But anyways, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number one, Age of Ultron is on par with the first Avengers.
Agree.
Vision has been criminally nerfed in the MCU.
Agree.
Batman should show up in the Penguin show.
Agree.
Quicksilver should not have been killed in Age of Ultron.
Agree.
Magneto was right.
Agree.
Age of Ultron is better than The Matrix.
Disagree.
I'm surprised that I thought you would be quicker. You probably had to register what I said.
It's like once you rewatch it, it's a whole different take because of what it means.
Yeah.
The Matrix was cool for what it was, and I put Matrix to me, it's its own island.
Yeah.
Even separate from the other two, the atrocities that followed. But the Age of Ultron is just kind of like, it just makes sense, and it's more dramatic now that I've seen it again, as opposed. So that's why the pause, because it's building up better now.
Okay.
Than the Matrix.
Gotcha.
Not quite there yet, but
no, not there. Scarlet Witch would solo the Avengers.
Agree.
See, I didn't even throw no shade at the Justice League because we knew that they wouldn't be a match for her at all. It's not even worth, And then Joss Whedon should stay away from comic book movies.
I disagree.
Okay. You think you should have another shot?
I think they should, because he's had some successes, and I think that they are intermingling his skill set with his personality.
Okay.
Which is what they do with pretty much everybody these days.
Right.
People become more sensitive things, aware of things. They're not, tolerating things, but they're also not putting checks and balances in place to prevent these things from happening, right?
Right.
So we want your skill set, but we're not going to do, and so we want you to do that 1,000%, but we're not going to do anything to protect others from the fact that you have to be this maniac in order to give us this one thing.
So put some checks and balances in place, but let them come back.
Sure. I mean, everybody has their thing.
Sure.
So some are more extreme than others, but if you want that widget or that color or that fabric or whatever it is, tolerate the shit. Not all of his shit, but tolerate his capacity to give you whatever widget that you want, and then put checks and balances in so that he doesn't, destroy New York in the process.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like, him being who he is, that's on him, but you do got to put some of these studios at blame for not protecting everyone else on set. Like, to your point, if you know this is his reputation, your first conversation should be like, dude, Adrian, I'm going to bring you in, you're going to direct, but you ain't going to be calling people fat and talking shit to them like you did on the last show. Like, if you do that, you're out.
Right.
Can we have some agreement where you actually respect people? Like, you got to address the shit.
Right.
So I do think some of the onus falls on these studios for allowing him to do this for so long.
Right. We want the Avengers. We know that the Avengers can and possibly will destroy New York. So what do we do? It's that kind of a situation.
Yeah, absolutely. This wasn't an agree to disagree, but it kind of hit me watching this movie and the others. Like, I really like Scarlet Witch and Cap in the MCU, and I think Scarlet Witch is great in the comics too. Do you feel like the MCU did Captain America better justice than they've done in the comics at times?
I think they have, because I wasn't like a real big Cap in the comics kind of a deal fan, so I didn't see all of his nuances.
Yeah,
especially this whole Boy Scout shit they got going on. I think that they kind of nerfed him in the MCU, as opposed to because he was a soldier, and he looked at things through that lens. I mean, they do capture that in the movies, but I think they made him softer. In the movies than in the comics.
So would you say he's more likable in the MCU?
Well, that depends. I mean, people like murderers.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So likability is perspective.
Yeah.
You can like him as a Boy Scout or you can like him as a soldier.
Sure. For me, it did. I was not a huge Cap fan in the he kind of was up there with Superman. Like, I know he's a badass, I know he's powerful, but he's kind of cringe at times, And then outside of it, like, the more the story went on with Civil War, with Infinity War, I felt like I sided more with Cap, and I appreciated his character more. So I felt like they did him kind of better on screen. Okay. Because it's hit or miss, right? Sometimes they take care from the comics and screw it up on screen, and sometimes I think they improved on Iron Man on screen. I liked Iron Man's comics, but they made him. I liked on-screen comic more, or on-screen Iron Man more than comic Iron Man.
We're also two different generations, basically, right? So,
true.
I'm Old Testament, you New Testament.
So you're more comic Iron Man.
So most of your experience has been through motion picture.
Sure.
Most of my experience has been through, pages.
Right.
Yep.
Well, there you have it. We agree to disagree. No one's upset. We're not going to go on lying. Adrian said this was wrong, and I don't like him no more. I'm not going to do that. I promise. So there you have another great week here on Only Comics. Adrian, thanks for coming in on this Labor Day special here. You know?
Absolutely.
We're laboring away in here for you all, you know, and let us know. Am I Deadpool? Is Adrian Wolverine? Or do I need to switch these next week? You know?
No, I'm sitting here thinking about this the whole time, and I agree with you. I like that. I feel my anger, my rage, the back of my
they're about to come out,
itching and stuff. So you know,
and I'm just more like, do whatever, just make fun of it. I'll probably say more inappropriate things. You know, it's okay. It happens. You know, what are you gonna do? So anyway, I know what we want. We don't have the mask though. So but we appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks for coming out. Hit the subscribe button if you've not already. Hit the like button. Drop us a comment. You might end up on We Respond next week, you know?
There you go.
Adrian, thanks for coming out.
Absolutely, man.
Guys, go to onlycomicsmerch.com. Support the website or support the show. Follow us on TikTok. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. And you know where to find us. We will be here right next week on Only Comics. We'll see you then.
Peace.